Good morning everyone, and welcome to the magnificent Djuma and Arathusa Game Reserves here in the magical South Africa. It's 18 degrees Celsius, 64 degrees Fahrenheit, light breeze blowing. My name's Hayden Turner and it's great to be back in the saddle. Hi everyone, I've got Brian with me this morning, of course, my buddy, partner in crime from way back, and it's nearly 12 months to the day since I started out here on Safari Live, and it's great to be back. I flew in yesterday, last night. Peter picked me up at the airport, came back, had a catch up with all the team. It's just a fantastic family to be back here, and it's great to have you with us as well. And if you're a regular Safari Live viewer or person on our vehicle, welcome back. Great to have you again. And if you're a newcomer, it's your first time, welcome aboard hugely to you. Because this bug bites, and once it's bitten you, you won't get away from it. Safari Live is a fantastic way for us to interact with you. You can send us a tweet through #SafariLive or an email at questions@wildearth.tv, and we can have a bit of a chat this morning, which would be fantastic. We've just pulled up here. It's such a beautiful morning too, folks. We had a bit of rain last night, and where we stay in our research centre, there's tin roofs, and it was very, very loud. We could hardly get any sleep, but it's a beautiful sort of moist covering on the ground at the moment. We've got a bachelor herd of buffalo over here that Brian was just starting on, and we just drove up and they're all just laying down undisturbed. A couple of them starting to stand up. It's just all around us, and whilst we're looking at the buffalo, I'll give you a little bit of an update of the species that I can see. I've got wildebeest off to the right in front of me, Pete's just going off in the distance there, brilliant. We've got zebras around us as well, but buffalo, I just love these guys, and I always stop to see them. Big beasts, absolutely huge individuals in here. A couple of alarm calls or a couple of rutting. There's a ram, an impala ram, chasing around his herd over a little bit further, but that's what those buffalo all just stood up for then. I love these guys. I think they're an incredibly sociable. They're fun too. I know they're incredibly dangerous, or they can protect themselves. They're fierce creatures, but there's a really great social aspect to buffalo. They really get on. You'll often see them lying like this, where they'll rest their head and shoulders on another one's back, and very, very sociable animals. Just chilling out here in this beautiful, cool morning. So only 18 degrees Celsius, 64 Fahrenheit, which is very, very pleasant and quite fresh when that wind was blowing. But great to see the rains have come and the grass is starting to grow, and it's just great to be back. I'm just so excited, and we're also very, very excited because we're geeing up for Big Cat Week, and not long to go now, and lots of rehearsals going in, lots of work. The techs all work. We've got a massive team here of people working on everything, and we also want to have a little plug for everyone that was watching the woodland kingfisher, the return of the woodland kingfisher. I think some of you were watching on one of the cams, the waterhole cams, which is brilliant as well, and you're going to start to hear that vocalisation back in the woods, which is a quintessential African sound as well. So really, really happy to be here. And I've got Mr. Pretorius up here a little bit further. Let's go and say hi. Fantastic to be here. Just let this individual, we've got one buffalo just going to go across back to the herd. So I'll just let that one go back, and then I'll go up and say hi to Pete. Thanks, Buffs. Thank you very much, everyone, for all the wonderful messages, the welcome backs from everyone. It's just great. I really, really am ecstatic to be here. It's just one of those things that it's a family. It's just a big family, and I'm very, very privileged to be part of it. Hello, my friend. Hello, buddy.
How does James say?
Yeah.
He goes like, good morning, good morning, good morning.
Sorry, mate. Wrong side. Door open.
Hey, everyone.
Great to be back, mate. Just having a look at those buffs back there, which is pretty beautiful, all lying down there.
Relaxed. The impalas also. Everyone's nice and frisky. It's nice and cool.
Yeah. And zebs and a few other things. So we're just going to have a little trundle around. I've got to get my bearings again, mate, on the place. You're only away for 6 weeks, and you can just sort of start to forget a few things, but that's probably my age.
Get our voices warmed up again. I realised that with Molly and them here the last few days, just, because you speak a bit more than you would sometimes, under other conditions. So get our voices back into shape as well.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, you know what? I'm going to go and have a bit of tootle around.
Specific plan? Just going to...
No, what were you going to do?
Same as always, just drive around and look for leopard.
Okay, me as well. So we might go down and then to Djuma Dam, and then just have a little bit of a look down around there, and then carry on from there, mate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome. Well,
yeah.
I think we're actually in our vehicle now.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
And I'll see you soon.
Buffalo back there, and yeah. I'm pretty much just going to start around here. I mean, there's zebra, Bolivia's, everything.
Okay.
See what happens.
All right.
And,
we'll see you just now. Good to see you, buddy.
Guys.
Good to see you, V.
Well, another good morning. Just looking at, let's just actually start from where we're sitting. We've got 4 species just around us, 5 if you count Hayden and Brian that's just left. Nice and cool, overcast. Generally speaking, wildlife is sort of, almost want to say, a little bit happy when it's nice and cool, especially in summertime. So you get often good activity, running around, playing around, obviously early morning still. So they're also on higher alert than they would be later on in the day. There's still many things walking around at this time of the day. So they're looking around, they're doing their thing. Pretty much what we're going to be doing for the next 3 hours on safari. And we've got buffalo that you have been looking at. We've got zebra on the back as well, which we'll go to in a second or two. Oh wow, look at this! Hyena! Awesome! The hyena surprised us the last time we were here. Just thinking back to the last drive that I was here, the last live drive. We're looking at a leopard, and the next thing hyenas came in. So spotted a hyena. We are going to maybe go past the hyena den this morning, either myself or HT, just depending how it works out. Beautiful views of those youngsters at the den, so that's always something to look forward to. There you go. Okay, wow, awesome. Well, also just while we're looking at this beautiful hyena, Nikki just letting us know, Tara letting us know that might be one of the females just looking at a scar there. And speaking of Nikki and Tara in directing and the final control, awesome to be on drive with you two as always. Looking forward to the next few weeks. Oh, I was going to move, but I think we can actually stay just here. Just quickly, my name is Pieter Pretorius. If this is your first time on drive with me, big welcome. I'm very excited to be back in the bush. I've been here for almost a week, about 5 days now. So been great to be back, but really great to be back in this seat. This is this is my favorite seat in the world to be in. So let's enjoy the wildlife. Zebra in the background there as well. You would actually quite often find zebra and buffalo together. They're both grazers, meaning they eat grass. But in this area in general, Sabi Sands, where we are sitting, we actually see buffalo a lot more than we do see zebra. It's not just sort of typical plain savanna, there's open grassland areas that people often associate with Africa. We've got more mixed bushveld or bushveld, so lusher areas. Buffalo still do well. Zebras prefer the bigger open areas. So zebra actually we don't see as often. So great to see them. And just while we are sort of early morning here, I think I presume it's a nickname. Sleepy is just asking. I just totally forgotten what you were asking, Sleepy. Please help me again there, Tara. Yes, Sleepy, Big Cat Week. You were asking what's Big Cat Week. Well, it's a very exciting thing. I can't believe I forgot that question. Big Cat Week obviously is a very exciting week in National Geographic, more specifically Nat Geo Wild. And it's very exciting for us on many levels almost exactly a year ago, we came down back to the Lowveld. Many of us, VM, it's the first time I met VM, Brian, Hayden as well, HT that you met earlier. And we had let's call it the early phase, almost the test phase of what's happening with Nat Geo Wild and us now, and the sort of exercise in that, and the fun in that, and the adventure in that. And we came down here for Big Cat Week, but it was sort of a little bit quieter. We sort of felt our way around, and I think everyone else as well. And it's gone great. We've had great drives since we've had spectacular surprises. And Sleepy, to get to the answer bit for you, Big Cat Week is 1 week where Nat Geo Wild is focusing on big cats. It's a very exciting week on many levels in terms of big cats. We all like big cats. And for us here at Djuma Game Reserve in Sabi Sand, South Africa, it's super exciting because we're going to be part of Big Cat Week directly, real time. It's going to be live game drives. We're doing 3 prime time game drives for you if you're from the States. I'm guessing you are from Canada, depending on the time zones, anything between 8 and 12 o'clock. Your evening time, our early morning, this time that we are now, will be the prime time drives, and we'll do 7 2-hour drives as well, which will be our afternoons, so morning time for many of you if you are in the sort of the American time belt. If you're in Europe, of course, your times are very similar to ours, maybe an hour or 2 difference. So that's something to look forward to. The television broadcast will only be Nat Geo Wild North America, but of course, for everyone else, as we always have done, every possible moment, we're going to give you live drives like this. So that's what it's going to be. We're looking forward to it. That'll be from the weekend coming up now. So from Friday night, your time, if you're in the American time belt. So evening time for you. Obviously, if you're in Europe, the TV broadcast will be from Saturday morning our time. It won't make much of a difference for you if you're viewing over the internet. In fact, you get to have it without the ad breaks. So if something does happen, you get to see it as it happens. I hope that explains it. Otherwise, just punch it into Google and lots of info will come up. There's some interesting articles coming out as well. We had some lovely people visiting us over the last few days. There's been various sort of press interest and things. We've talked to them, showed them pictures, made friends with them. So looking forward to seeing what's coming out as well. If you bump into it before we do, please let us know what you find out there regarding this. Otherwise, most of all, apart from the big cats, we're also looking around just for the general adventure of safari time. Those things that you experience and see without knowing what to expect before it happens. And that just only happens by driving around, looking at the tracks, listening to the bush. That's what's beautiful about summertime, is there's lots of sounds. Heavy skies. We had a bit of rain last night, not for long, but it sounded like someone was throwing stones on the roof. We've got tin roofs over where we stay, and at one stage I actually got up and looked outside. I thought it might be hail. So big raindrops last night. There is a bit of rain predicted for the last day of this week and going into next week. But by Big Cat Week, hopefully if all goes well, fingers crossed, we'll have good weather. Awesome. Hello, Robin. Sorry, this is still the first drive or two. You sort of have to just shake yourself into it again and get used to everything going on. We're listening to the guys in the control room, Tara, Nikki, and I'm not sure, I think Kirsty is in the control room as well this morning. Alex, of course, Mr. Bright, all the guys. Just a quick hello to everyone while it's the first drive. Say hi to a few individual people. Robin, I was so explaining to you how this all is working that I forgot what I was talking about. Robin, you're just asking what is the most. There's the Hina tracks, the one we saw just now. What's the most exciting thing for us to see? You know what it really is? I've been talking a lot about this. I mean, we've been discussing the concept of game drive, the concept of safari with Jason and Nick quite a bit, with Molly. And most excited to see, what do we most hope to see? Well, in a way, like Pink in the Brain, always the same thing every day. In Sabi Sands especially, you pretty much find yourself hoping for leopard. Robin, as you well know, leopards are just stunning to see, and this area is one of the top areas in the world to see leopard in. Not only is it great habitat for them, but also it is an area where they've been very well habituated to our presence. So you can find many of them sometimes if you're lucky, but when you find them, the quality of viewing, the quality of the experience you have in terms of experiencing their behavior is just phenomenal. So I just have to show you that bit of a eastern view there. As I said, quite heavily overcast. but sun breaking through a little bit, and I just love this view. This is one of my favorite trees on quarantine. Beautiful trees in the background, lovely light. And that's the second part of my answer, Robin, is even though we might often find ourselves looking for leopard, ultimately on game drive, on a safari, you are hoping to see anything, you are hoping to see everything, and that might be a herd of elephants or buffalo and zebra like we just saw, or leopard up in the tree perhaps. But just as much as that, it is just seeing the sunrise, smelling the rain, hearing the woodland kingfishers that are calling. We started hearing them the last few days. I'll tell you more about that later on. And that really is what the safari is about. Yes, if you could have a leopard lying up in that branch, obviously I'm not going to complain, you're not going to complain. But in the end, just to drive around and to be in an amazing environment like this, wild environment as well. We are part of the Greater Kruger National Park. Millions of hectares, millions of acres, and that experience in itself, just to be doing what we're doing right now, chatting to each other, saying hello, talking about some wildlife questions or some questions about specific individual animals, or just talking about the weather. That's what the safari is about. And then we could take that corner and there could be a leopard on the road. Yes, Georgia. Georgia, and just asking if those were just buffalo, that was just a bachelor group. Yes, that was a bachelor herd, so all males. They would have been taking the last hours of the morning sleeping on a quarantine area, and then they'd be moving around now, grazing again for the morning. We're going to continue on, look around a bit. It's nice and sort of clean road. It's been raining, so all the tracks are fresh. I can see hyena tracks. We are going to head up towards the hyena den. But for now, you're going to jump to another place around here, enjoy it, and I'll see you back here in a bit.
Good morning everybody. It is a chilly morning here in the safari tent or savannah tent or whatever kind of a tent you wish to call it. We have a display which has grown since last evening. Elephant bones, which I shall explain to you a bit later. Giraffe skull. The greyness of the western horizon is slightly intimidating as we sit here. And out in the field we've had Louise Pavid, who has been finding various bits and pieces. Now what we have here is a slug. Now a slug is not normally associated with the top animals to find on safari, but this particular slug here, well, we don't know a huge amount about what species it is, but what they do is that they eat a lot of plant matter. They go about the place, and apparently they've evolved the ability to live without shells because of a lack of calcium in the soil, which I think is quite interesting. Now what we'll do is we'll head across to the microscope shot, and I just want you to watch the rippling of his muscles. I think it's absolutely incredible. If we go across now to the microscope shot, you'll be able to see a little bit of, I think, you can see the, no, don't worry. You can see that movement of the light there. There, you can see that. That is actually the muscles of the slug starting to ripple. He's thinking about moving. He's thinking about getting up, and well, he's not going to go anywhere very fast. But that, I think, is quite interesting. Right, I'll show you a better look at him now. If you come back to me. There we go. Look at him there. You can see he's quite a splendid fellow, really. Like I say, not the top animal for not really a top kind of safari animal, but very interesting. Found under this log over here, and they must live under a log like that simply because they will desiccate. In other words, they will get very, very dry very fast without being under a log. So let's have one more look under the microscope. Let's have a look at the top of him this time round, and he looks almost like a whale skin. There we go. You can go across there, and you can see that's the top of what he looks like. He will stick out two antennae, exactly like a snail will eventually, but at the moment he's hiding from us. He's a bit nervous. Okay, righty. I think let's head back over to Hayden. I'm just going to try and see what he's got. Oh, he's got a vast expanse of the Kruger National Park in front of him. Let's go and see what he can find there. See you just now.
To one of my favourite stretches of road, the Buffleshoek Cut Line, which takes us to Buffleshoek Dam, and I was expecting a little bit more water or some water in some of the dams. I've been watching back in the UK, and I keep watch as many drives as I possibly can. But I just drove past Juma Dam there, and Brian was pointing out the remnants of the catfish in the centre there. It's the catfish graveyard. It is very dry, but Buffelshoek Dam is the only water point in this vicinity. So what is around? Very, very beautiful temperature. It's only about, as I said, 18 degrees Celsius, 64 Fahrenheit. It's good for us for predators in this cooler weather. Have a tendency to be active a little bit longer through the day, through the morning. So fingers crossed. I just said to Brian, I've got a bit of a wild dog feeling going on, so always good to have a little bit of a positive wild dog feeling going on inside you. Oh, it's so nice to be back. Wow. When I was just flying over yesterday, and it was such a beautiful feeling just to fly over this beautiful country. Oh, I love this place. So we just got a message from Sandy in Ohio. Thank you very, very much. Great to have you with us, as always. And you can't wait to see what's around the next corner. Well, me either. And we're going to just peek our little head in here. Not a lot of water left here. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. You can see...
Morning station, this is Peter WildEarth. Anyone out to drive?
Just pull up. We'll just turn off for a second. We've got our Egyptian geese down here with their little goslings. Now, how many's there, Brian? 1, 2, 3, 4 left.
4 from 7.
Yeah, 4 from 7. I remember, I think there was 7 or 8. Yeah, I was watching on Drive a while back when I think Scotty was up here, and I was watching with my son in the UK, and we were sitting there, and Scotty just had this incredible sighting with so much going on, and I really had to just pipe up and send a tweet to say it's lovely when you turn up and things just start to appear. There was all different bird species, and I think some of the marabou storks that were here then were fishing, but then there was 8 goslings, and now there be 4. Wow. So they're getting on there. They're getting a bit bigger, I can see there, and definitely being cared for by their very protective parents. I love this spot. We've seen so much action here over the year. Incredible times with wild dog, lion, leopard, elephant. Amazing elephant interaction here. And something that I really want to do, folks, an unofficial little thing this Big Cat Week, and prior to I want to sort of set up a little thing called I want to call it Operation Wild Child. So just for a working name, and it's, as I said, it's unofficial, but it's just between us. And I know all of you out there that have got friends, family, grandchildren, children, or within your circle of people. Let's try and make a mission. I challenge you to actually sit down with a child, either it's a relative or a bunch of your kids' friends or whatever, and watch an episode of Safari Live. Watch a drive with us. Sit down and talk them through it. Work through it with them. Okay, there's going to be sometimes a bit of graphic sort of stuff that you have to really talk them through. But at the end of the day, this is the raw reality of the bush, and I think that's a really important thing. So my challenge is Operation Wild Child. Let's try and flick the love nature switch in as many kids as we can over the next few weeks, particularly through Big Cat Week. Sit them down and talk them through it. But then use that little bit of stimulation that they've had watching Safari Live to get outside in your backyard or your garden or a woodland or a wild area near you, and go out and have a little exploration, a little adventure with them. James in there this morning with all those invertebrates, looking at slugs and things like that, things that are really accessible for kids in a very, very close local area. Get them to love nature. That's what we've got to do. We've got to get them to love nature, I always love to say it, but and I will probably say it a million times, but get them to love nature before we can teach them to save it. Flick that switch. Operation Wild Child, let's work with it, hey? See if we can do it. It looks a little bit quiet here, so I'm going to just drive on a bit and see what else we can see, but look at that. Really beautiful, beautiful vision there, Brian, isn't it? That gorgeous grey, all those different tones of the sky with that waterhole and that reflection. It's a beautiful thing. I'm going to pass you over to Peter, who is with some beautiful creatures that I'm sure you're going to love. We'll see you just now.
Well, from HD to this side, we are at the den. So speaking of children being exposed to the wilderness and the beauty of well, just to see kids in nature is awesome, because they get so excited, they appreciate it so much. But also all young creatures are interesting, whether it's human or hyena. I was hoping to time it in such a way that the youngster would come out, but these hyenas have got very small pups in there. Cubs, pups, I can never remember with hyena. And I've actually not seen them myself. I've only seen them from the way you guys see them, from one of the game drives. And they were tiny, still pitch black, almost look like little bears when they're that small. Well, one actually, when it is that small. We're going to sit here for a bit because it's quite possible that the youngster would come out. There's a youngster, not a pup or a little one. That's a sub-adult. The one I'm talking about is about the size of a, I was going to say a chihuahua, but it's not quite fair. It's about the same sort of height as it, but it's a much more chunky, much more tenacious animal as well than a chihuahua. In fact, young hyenas at birth, and the firstborn will often start attacking the secondborn while it's being born. Dominance is incredibly important with hyenas. And the firstborn will normally assume alpha dominance and often attack and sometimes even kill that secondborn. So they grow up being very competitive, tenacious, aggressive, various words you can use for it, but also being very cute and very playful and very endearing when you see them with other hyenas in the group. Can you hear the sounds that she's making, the female? That's the same one we saw with the zebra further back. Oh, there we go. Look at that. Hey! Oh, little animals, eh? They cheer us up always, but look at that. Hungry? Come on, Mum. You can imagine a morning like this. It's cold, it's overcast, it was raining again last night. Some warm mother's milk will be great. Hyenas have got incredibly high fat and calcium. Whoa! Little somersault there. The nutritional levels of hyena milk is right up there with the highest of sort of concentrates, if you want. Oh, look at that. Bit of a grooming session. Hello, Mum. Hello, youngster. Oh, I miss my boy. Ragnar, my son, is just over a year old now. He's 2 months over a year, and he's been learning to walk. Just before I left, he could sort of do 5 to 7 steps, and in the last day or two, Leishan's been telling me he now walks straight across from one side to the other side of the house. That's in the space of 1 week. Young creatures, young mammals, whether it's human or hyena, once they start developing and once they start getting active, it happens so quickly. The muscles and the coordination increases every day. Hello, Karen. You were just wondering if I brought my family with me to Djuma this time. Unfortunately, not physically. I'm missing them a lot and can't wait to see them again. And I'm hoping maybe even early next year. We must just see how the plans work out. I'd love to bring them over. Leishan misses the bush so much. My kids absolutely love nature. Hayden and myself were talking last night also about the Wild Child sort of thing he's going to do, the next wild operation, Wild Child, the concept of it. And my daughter is just over 4 years old now, so she's in that age group, sort of 4 to 7, where they really start getting in tune with their surroundings, especially their sort of close to home world. But Sydney, my little girl, loves nature. She loves everything from little bugs. She's always catching little beetles and things and keeping them in boxes to watch them. Flowers and birds, and we've got lots of birds in the garden. Our dogs, some ways, can remind you of the hyenas and vice versa. So young animals are great. And we're going to be seeing a lot of young animals over the next few weeks, over the next few months, before, during and after Big Cat Week. This is summer in the bush. You can see it's green. We've had rain, as we've said numerous times. We might have rain this morning. And with the rain, with summer, comes lots of life, lots of activity, whether it's little insects or snails like you saw with James earlier, or birds or big animals. Hyena with youngsters, the impalas should be lambing as we speak. We saw the first lambs in the last few days. Summer is just a great time of activity and of life. Lots of things to look for. You were asking earlier, Robin, if I remember correctly, what do we look for in the bush? Everything, anything, nothing. But leopard are always something we keep an eye out for. So Brent's going to give you a little bit of info on that. I think he's got some signs. We're going to just move a little bit. See you back at the hyenas just now. Great to be on drive with you.
Welcome on the Sunrise Safari, and we've got a male leopard track here crossing across our eastern boundary into Djuma Private Game Reserve, and it rained at about 12:30, 1 o'clock last night. So we're going to have a quick look at the track again, and I can tell you about what time this happened. This probably happened around 2:30 after the rain. You can see these little spots. That leopards walked through here when there was still a bit of water. Not now. If I make a mark with my finger now, you can see I don't get that little pull off of the sort of suction off the water. So this track's a couple of hours old. It's going to be really, really difficult to follow them at the moment with this hard soil, but we are going to give it a really good go. And you can see just as we go along here how difficult it becomes. You can just sort of see where the sand's been scraped, and you see when I scrape the sand, it's still moist underneath. The leopard scraped, so it's been on top for a while, and it's actually dried a little bit. So we're just looking at that slightly lighter patch. And we have Jean-Ray herding on the bushwalk this morning. My name's Brent Smith, and we're tracking cats on foot. While we continue to look for this leopard, we're going to go and see what Peter's up to back at the hyena den.
Well, as you can see, we've repositioned ourselves, and the youngsters, they're just busy suckling in between her back legs. Popped his head up as we came around. Her leg, we don't actually know. I presume female, actually. With hyena, it's very, very difficult, near impossible, actually, to tell the sex of the animal, even as an adult. So pretty much impossible when they're that small. But I would guess female. We'll have to look at the behavior over the next while. As Brent was telling you there, fresh leopard track. One of the other things about summertime is it often gives you not only a great platform to track on, because if it's rained, all the tracks are nice and fresh on top, but you can also use it as a time gauge. As I mentioned, the rain last night was so hard, at one stage I thought it might be hailing. They had a big hailstorm here just over a week ago, 2 weeks ago, in Hoedspruit. So much so that it broke through roofs of houses and smashed things. So hail is not impossible, yeah, although it's not typical. Anyway, my point is that the rain was so loud last night that we woke up from it. I'm sure everyone did, actually. So therefore, Brent could have checked what time it was. Brent's an extremely good tracker. He's very well experienced, and he's also extremely good at building the story, in terms of what can we find where. If the lions were there, they're likely to be there the next day. And you use all your local knowledge, all your experience to find animals, and that's exactly what he could do. He woke up, probably checked the time, so that tomorrow morning, if he finds a track, he knows that it's past that time at least. So, fresh leopard track, young hyenas. Look at that youngster there. That's the sub-adult having a look at us. Oh, that's beautiful. I love this den. One of the reasons why is that it's quite a big termite mound. This one might actually come and have a look at us. Now this youngster, or this juvenile, is at that age, like humans again, when you get a little bit older, you're still a youngster, but you're old enough now to start exploring your surroundings slightly further out than just the den itself. Look at that young one, the little one. Too much. Oh, that's so nice. And we're going to have lots of good times here. Lots of fun times. I'm sure we're going to have lots of laughs. Quite a few sighs. Morning, Siberia. Look at him, little 4x4 dude. Hey, yo! I think he went down face first, maybe. That was... Luckily, they're quite tough, but yeah, that little guy went down the hatch quite quickly. Oh, I think I got that in the shot. That's hilarious. Yo, this is stunning. This is absolutely stunning. The setting. Siberia just asking, what's the mortality rate of Ahina in this area? And I would be honest with you, I don't have a exact sort of factual statistic for it, Siberia, but I would guess at least 50%. Generally speaking, predators in this area where there's high predator density, so in other words, lots of competition, you often find that at 50% or even more. I mean, leopard in this area, according to Panthera, actually, according to Brent, who reads all these things and gives us the info. Oh, elephant! It's all happening. The leopard in Sabi Sands, only about 25 to 30% survive, so up to 70% don't. But yeah, this is awesome. This is a breeding herd, and by the way they're moving, you can see there they're picking up a bit of pace. I think they're quite thirsty, probably heading through towards either Galago or Galago camp, the warthol there, or to the warthol in front of Boetela Lodge. With Ahina having a look at the elephants. Not worried about them, they're not going to harass her, she's not going to do anything to them, but nonetheless, we all like this. If someone's walking down the street outside your house, you have a look. Keeps the day interesting. Listening as well, of course. Ahina's excellent hearing. You can see the ear just checking if I'm speaking any sense. Hey, here's the young one coming out again. Hello. 4x4 mode. Oh man, this is too much. Hello, Paul. Paul is just noticing there and commenting, and I love it when people ask questions or even just make comments relative to behavior going on. You know, it's so great to see things like this. I mean, just to see that little guy roll over like that, it makes us all smile, it makes us all feel good. Seeing him play with his mother like that. And Paul, you were just saying, you're noticing how sensitive the mother is towards it, how endearing even. And that's something that you find on certain levels. I mean, mammals, it's one of the characteristics of mammals, apart from the fact that we have hair and warm blood and various other sort of characteristics, is we raise our young. We spend time raising our young. Sometimes maybe not that long. Antelopes and so on, the youngsters mature very quickly, or at least physically, being able to run and so on. So that might only be sort of a mother's dedicated care for 5 or 6 months. In the case of Ahina, they are, even amongst mammals, I would say, at the top end of social activity, social interaction, social dependence, social cohesion, social co-working. You can add a lot of those words into it. But certainly when it comes to, oh, look at that, the young one grooming mother a little bit. When it comes to rearing their young to commitment in terms of energy and time to their young, Ahina are at the top of the scale. They can spend 2 years raising the youngster, up to 2 years that they'll actually be suckling from the mother. And in the case of females, they might well spend a large part of the rest of their life, even the rest of their lives together in the clan. So fascinating animals, and within the group, how they look at each other, how they take care of each other, they are absolutely brilliant. Hello, Bill. Guys, it's so great getting questions in from you as well. Thank you very much. It's always nice to have a conversation on the safari. That's what it's about. Chatting to each other, learning things, asking questions. I learn a lot of things from the questions you ask me as well. But Bill's just asking, is this the only youngster in the den? Bill, I'm going to ask you a question as well, if you don't mind. If you can check for me and anyone else that wants to. And I know I should know this by now. I've only been doing this for about 20 odd years. But I can still, for some reason, I've built up a mental block against it. Never remember if it's pup or cub for hyenas. And I sometimes feel it can be both. So, Bill, if you want to check for me, what's the correct reference to a baby hyena? Is it pup or cub? Or pub or cub or cup? Cup would be T. But in this den, only one. You sometimes get two as well, but I wouldn't be surprised if maybe only one was born. Or even, as I said, sometimes the firstborn will even kill the secondborn in that process of birth. They are highly competitive. All about dominance in the hyena society. Guys, remember as well, when you ask questions, when you ask us questions, firstly, you can do so easiest with just using the hashtag Safari Live. Then those questions get passed through to us. And it's also nice to know where you're from. You don't have to. If you just want to give us your name, that's great. But it's great to have a first name. It's great to have a real name. And it's great to know where you're from. Karen just asking if this is the den where we used to go. I know quite a few Karens on Drive with us. So firstly, welcome to all the Karens, as well as everyone else. Karen, the den, I have a feeling the den you're referring to, just because that's a den that you know, if I remember over the last few years we spent the most time at. This is a different den. This den has been used. I can't remember when last I saw hyenas in this den. Personally, I think I might have last seen them here pre-WildEarth days for me, so earlier than 2006. But they have used this den. Many of these dens are often hundreds, even thousands of years old. I can't see why it's different for this one. Just looking at the setting of it and the trees growing on it, I would say at least a couple of 100 years, or at least 100 years or so, that this den would have been used by hyenas, running back, but also by porcupine, honey badgers, aardvark, warthogs, various things. Wild dogs could use this as well. I wonder what gave them a little fright. You can see the young one just ran back in. Oh, there it comes out again. They've got this sort of great, sort of terrier-like aspect to them. A little, you can almost imagine it to be like. Sorry, I was listening to the Game Drive there as well. Game Drive radio. Almost like what was I looking at the other day to get in North America? Wolverine, badger-like. Great little animals. Getting a proper grooming. That's a bit like when you wash your kid's hair. The whole little body is actually shaking with that grooming. Mum making sure the youngster's clean. That's the practical reason. Of course, also in terms of just the bonding there again, very, very special. But Karen, yeah, so just to finish off, this is a new den for me. It's visually, it's very striking. In fact, just to take a picture here, because you've got that sky behind, the camera sort of at foot level with them, you're going to see some amazingly beautiful views here of these hyenas. And they should have moved in here relatively recently, which means they should stay for a while. Hyenas stay in a den for a couple of weeks or a few months, and then they move to another den site normally because of the parasite load. So fleas and ticks and things that can build up in and around the den. So they should be here for a while, I would say at least a few weeks. And I think we are going to have many beautiful, breathtaking, intimate moments like we are having at the moment. So yeah, I'm excited about this den. Oh, look at that. Morning, Amy. Good question. Amy's from Madison, and you're just wondering, is there concern over flooding in these dens? Possibly yes. I mean, not concerned that they're going to flood and the hyenas will drown inside. I mean, they'll know that it's starting to get wet and they'll get out. But it can happen. That's possibly also why they've moved. I mean, one of the dens on Torchwood, I was lucky enough to drive in some other areas over the last few days. And there's a den on Torchwood that is in a riverbed, and they actually moved after the last rains, I guess purely in anticipation of possible rain. But this den is quite in high up ground. The entrance itself is quite high up as well. So I would say quite unlikely for this den to flood, or for it to really be a problem regarding flooding. So yeah, good day inside. Hello Jody. Awesome state, New Mexico, beautiful place. Are there any termites active in this mound? Yes, very likely. I don't see too much activity on it at the moment, so the mound itself, in terms of how active it is relative to the size of it, I'm not sure. But the termites won't affect the hyenas or vice versa. The hyenas have got a network of tunnels going down into this termite mound, but that won't affect the termites. It'll be the same as sort of a highway going through a city. So the road itself won't affect, well, in the case of termites, millions of them living there. This is so beautiful. Seems a little bit at the other side of the mound now. Maybe they'll come back over. We'll have more looks at them. And in the meantime, James has got something interesting to be talking to you about. So have a look.
What a magnificent time you've been having with that hyena cub. I've been watching it here and just marveling over the incredible interactions that you've been getting. And I think very interesting to watch the different social interactions that are going on there. And I mean, certainly the last cub that we had, we thought was the daughter of the matriarch. It'd be interesting to see where this one fits in the pecking order. It is on its own again, so quite possibly a female, which I think is fascinating. Right, come and have a look here. What we have is a beetle, which is a fruit chaffer of sorts. We're not sure exactly which kind. Most closely looks like a rose chaffer, but they'll fall under the fruit chaffers. And what I wanted to quickly show you was these things here. All insects, at one stage or other, had two wings. And in the case of the beetles, and they're pretty well evolved, those four wings, so the front wings, have fused into what we call an elytra, or a protective shell. So those are those ones there, and they obviously don't work properly. They just close over the beetle. And then it's got the wings that it uses to fly are these hind wings, and they're the back wings. And if you think of a wasp or a bee, they've got two sets of wings that are both used to fly. But in case of the beetles, the elytra, which are these four wings, don't work anymore. Now that's one case of beetle. Here is another, and this is called a tok-toki beetle, or a tenebrionid beetle. And you can see there that the elytra here are completely fused. So this beetle is flightless, it runs along the ground. And it's quite a nice link across to Pieter, because most of the interesting tok-toki or tenebrionid beetles go or come from the Namibian sands, the deserts. And they love living in the desert, and these fused elytra, you can see that there's no way that there could be a wing underneath there that could be used. The elytra are fused to form this hard shell, and in the deserts of Namibia they're particularly effective for stopping desiccation in the beetle, so the beetle doesn't desiccate. And if you come back here, if you come back to me now, what I will show you is the fact that this beetle, some of them that live in Namibia, what they do is they sit in the sand and they face the mist that comes in. So where Pieter lives in Swakopmund or at Walvis Bay, they're on the same coast, what happens is that this enormous mist comes in every morning, and these beetles stand on the dunes facing the mist, and the mist condenses on top of the shell, like that, on those fused elytra, and it forms little water droplets. And that water then drips down over the top of the head and into the little beetle's mouth. Isn't that an astonishing thing? So they don't have to drink at all. They just gather water out of the air. Amazing, amazing desert adaptation that they have, and that is the tenebrionid beetle. Right, they don't do that here, of course, because we have enough rain. Let's go back to the hyena den. I see that the cub is still out. Marvelous interactions going on there. Have a look closely at where you think that cub and its mother fit into the social hierarchy of this wonderful clan that provides us with such entertainment.
Well, great little beetle there. I think it was a tok-toki. Always loved that name. Tok-toki refers to the sound of knocking. Tok-tok. And as we said earlier, the question was asked, I spoke about it, I can't remember now whether it's male or female, this youngster. Bill, still hoping you're going to let me know if it's pub. I keep saying pub or cup, but that's just a Freudian slip, whether it's a pup or a cub. But as we said earlier, it's actually, well, pretty much impossible really to tell with hyena. You have to look at their behavior. Females are more dominant than males. Even the lowest ranking female will outrank the highest ranking male. So my guess would be female here. Also the fact that it's only one. Sandra, Georgia, thank you so much, Georgia, sorry, not Georgia. The correct term is cub. I'm going to try and remember that. I think I might have to remember it by doing this, because this is my cup with my coffee in it. Maybe from this morning, maybe I never have this problem again. Maybe you helped me solve this sort of problem I've had. And I'm not joking, this has been since day dot of guiding. For some reason, I've just, for so many times, told myself that I can't remember which one of the two that I don't now. But thank you so much. A cub, same as lions. In terms of the sort of breakdown of who's who in the zoo, with hyenas, they would be closer to, for instance, mongooses or bears than they would be to dogs, wild dogs or wolves. So cub obviously works. They sort of fit somewhere in between dogs and cats. Oh, this is amazing. Look at that. Yo. Just visually, this is just stunning. That background. I've got a great question from Dallas, Texas, and I can understand that people are sometimes a little bit shy to say their names in this vehicle, but keep in mind many of us are friends for, in some cases, years now, so I promise you we won't make fun of your name or do something silly. But out of Dallas, Texas, Virtual Tourist is asking, and I would love to ask you what your name is. What color are these youngsters when they're born? Pretty much what you see there. I mean, this is a tiny little guy, tiny little girl more likely, 6 weeks old maybe, and they are almost pitch black when they're born. Very, very dark. And then they mature slowly over the next 6 to 8 months, 6 months to 10 months, you'll start seeing the spots coming out, and then probably at about 2 years, year and a half old, they have the adult coloration. I don't know if you could hear that. Could you hear that, Willem? Oh yes, of course, I didn't introduce formally earlier. VM is behind the camera. VM, fantastic, hè? Uitgesien hierna. Great to be on vehicle with you, great to be in the bush with you. VM loves wildlife, obviously, that's why he's filming it, but also he just loves being out in the bush, so perfect friend, perfect partner to have out in the drive. He's also one of the top spotters out here. He would have made an excellent tracker, so that's also a fantastic aspect of being on the game drive together, VM. Looking forward to the next few weeks with you. Oh, look at that. Oh, no. This is too much. I hope my family are watching. Leisha said they're going to try and watch this morning. It's just such an amazing thing for children to see and experience this. So, getting back to one of the things Hayden will be talking to you about over the next few weeks. He's sort of coined the catchphrase Operation Wild Child, and to have young people, to have kids be exposed to nature, to see something, whether it's just a flower in the garden or an insect or a butterfly or a beautiful hyena, even funny hyena moment like what we just saw there. That is something that's very close to all our hearts, especially Mr. Turner's as well. He's been always at the forefront of educating people about wildlife, stimulating the passion for wildlife. The more of us that love nature, the more of us will enjoy it, and hopefully as time goes along, the more wild nature will be available to us. And nature, keep in mind, is not only here where we're sitting in South Africa in the wilderness. Nature is anywhere. It's in your garden outside, it's in the water we drink and the air we breathe. So we should all love it. Hey, you snuck up on me there. Guys, isn't this just amazing, eh? Sit here and do this with you. What a privilege, what a pleasure. Thank you for allowing me to spend time with you. Hello, Jan. I would like to welcome you all the way from Indiana to join us on safari. I'm quite curious where in Indiana. In fact, quick trick question for you. Do you know where Brazil, Indiana is? It's one of those random little places I've been to. Let's see what's... I thought he might pop out. Jan, as I said earlier, this is my first drive in a while, so I'm still letting my brain and my ears and my mouth and all those things catch up to each other. Lots of things going on. And in welcoming you and remembering Indiana, I spent quite a bit of time in a tiny little place called Brazil, Indiana, before going to a place in Illinois. I've forgotten what you asked me. Can you believe that? Yes, of course. There's a male cub born from a dominant mother or alpha female higher ranking than a female born from a lesser dominant female mother. So let me explain that again. What Jan is asking is, if there were two cubs born from two different mothers and the male is born from the alpha female and the female from another, which would be more dominant? Well, what's she seeing? Look at that behavior. Head up, looking carefully. I would guess that youngster immediately running back. It's amazing how the communication works. Mother's alert suddenly and head up. As soon as she sees the behavior, the cub runs back into them. Jen, quickly answer in case something happens here. Who knows what's going to walk in here? Maybe other hyenas, maybe lion, who knows? But any female hyena will outrank any male in the group. So even a newborn or a young, I mean newborn, that's too weak, but a young female cub, as we now know, would outrank an adult male, just because that's how the society works. It's very female dominant, so the lowest ranking female in the group or in the clan would outrank even the highest ranking male. So I guess that would answer the cub question as well. So any male cub, no matter where he's born from, will be outranked by any female in the clan. She's very alert there. Even she can also dash down that hole. The den would provide her for safe or with safety as well. I'm not quite sure. Dixon. Maybe Texan, he's sitting in another vehicle there from Boetella Lodge. He's got some guests. Just thought maybe he can see what this is, but she seems less concerned now. She's just alert, but she looked, at first initial heads up was almost like I wouldn't have been surprised if a lion walked in here, but I don't think it's that. But this is what the den is about. It's to provide security, it's to provide a safe place for them to groom and suckle and interact like we've been seeing, but also it provides a very safe, very secure home. Going into that den, it's a network of tunnels. It's not just a hole, it's tunnels, there's chambers in there, different places to hide, even smaller tunnels that only the youngsters can get into. You can see why they're called spotted hyena. Those markings on them. Oh, lots of things happening this morning. We're going to keep an eye out, see what she's looking at. We've seen so many things already, and Brent's got some big things on foot. Enjoy.
Welcome back, everyone. We've been trying to track this leopard, and we've come across a breeding herd of elephant, and they're moving towards us, so we're trying to move out of the area. They don't know we're here, but they've got small babies, strong wind. We've got this breeding herd, very strong wind. They're in the area where we think the leopard is, but they started moving towards us, so we're trying to sort of skedaddle a little bit. It looks like they've changed their direction a bit. With babies and that, we don't really want them to know we're here. We'd rather let them move past, feeding slowly, and we can carry on looking for that leopard. They might come out into the open in a little bit. There we go. So they've changed the direction slightly, so we're in a bit of a better position. And isn't this incredible? We're out looking for big cats on foot, and we've come across the biggest animal in the bush on foot. And they're slowly feeding through the block. In the strong wind, they have no idea where we are, so we don't want to give them a fright. Suddenly they see us at very close range. And they're probably about 70 meters, 60 meters from us at the moment. Okay, we're going to move a little bit just in case. Andre, let's go. And just make sure, you never know if there's other elephants spread around. Okay, let's go. We're just going to go to a big marula tree. We're going to stand behind it, and they should move right past us. Of course, that is if they don't change direction. Okay, let's actually come back a bit more. Okay. So it's quite a big herd. We initially only saw 3 or 4. And there's probably now closer to 10 that we can see. And obviously those are only the ones we can see. Now, out of all the animals we walk around with in the bush, the potential for things going bad is highest with a breeding herd of elephants. And that's why we're very, very cautious. So while we're watching this beautiful breeding herd, Deanne Amore is wondering, is tracking cats on foot safe? Or elephants and other things more dangerous? Well, elephants are probably the most dangerous on foot, just because they're so big and we're so little. But if you use your experience and you don't put yourself in a dangerous position like we've done now, we've moved away from the path they were following. They have no idea we're here. They're just slowly moving about their business. It's not a dangerous situation now, but if we'd been in the wrong place or read the situation wrong, it can become a dangerous situation. But elephants don't really want to kill you. They're just trying to protect themselves. As with leopards and lions on foot, quite often will move away from you during the day, and so a lot less dangerous. These ones are going to pop out into the open clearing shortly. So it's always important to be checking completely around you. We don't know how spread out this herd is. I'm quite confident they're all in that little zone there. But I'm always checking behind me. And isn't this incredible? So what I am going to do is I'm going to call Peter and Hayden on the radio, let them know where these elephants are moving to, and they can hopefully give you an incredible viewing from the vehicle. Peter or HT coming? Stations, there's a Klambu and Glove at the junction of Drakensberg and Central Road. Slowly mobile north.
Copied, mate. Thanks.
There we go. HT's got it. He's on his way there. So while we move away, keep on trying to find this big male leopard. We're just going to wait a few more seconds. They might pop out into the open. just going to move. They're moving away from us now. We're just going to take a few steps, try to get you one last really good view. Here we go. That's amazing. So, obviously, breeding herds are very different from walking into elephant falls. And Georgia and Illinois is wondering if they become more aggressive when there are babies with them. Georgia, they do. It's any animal's protecting its young. So that's why we'll never, ever, ever, ever try push our luck with breeding herds. This is a almost perfect situation. The wind's in our favor. They have no idea we're here. And they're slowly moving on about their business. And shortly we're going to be doing the same. Just going to try see if we can get a shot of one of the little babies coming out into the open. There's some younger ones, little female walking through. Isn't this absolutely amazing? So we've had a nice view on foot. I'm sure HT or Peter are going to come into this area with the vehicle, give you an even better view. And we've still got a leopard to find. So we're going to cross back to Hayden and see what he's up to. And hopefully we'll be back with another member of Africa's Big Five, except this time a spotted one.
Wow, that sounds like a beautiful little spot that Brent was in there. Lovely to come up on a breeding herd of elephants on a walk, and very exciting stuff, particularly when you're doing exactly what we try and do, try and get those animals visual and not have any impact on their behavior, and just watch them from afar. It's a very, very special feeling, and everyone gets really excited. I particularly just find it hard to control my excitement when I come across elephants on a walk like that. We've got a really nice question from Line Eyes in Texas. Nice to have you with us. Fantastic to have you on board this morning. And you would like to know what my favourite elephant interaction on Juma was. Well, I think in the middle of the year, I think it was about the first quarter or third of this year gone. And I was just talking to Brian about it. He has so much go into his brain and so many sightings. Sometimes it's hard to remember what happened when. And I'm pretty sure it was Brian and I. But Line Eyes, there was this fantastic situation with this old bull, and we got a pretty good idea that he was feeling pretty comfortable with us. And we stopped on this little area of grass that we're coming up to just now. And what he basically did was he tolerated us, and we sat there with him and watched him, and he sort of came up quite close to us and sort of fed past us. And then I just reversed up, did a bit of a circle around, and sort of plonked ourselves up quite close to where he was going to walk. Well, I must have driven the vehicle over some of the food or the vegetation that he was feeding on, and it was at the time he was picking up some sort of a tuber or a bulb. I can't quite remember what it was. But we got there, and he started to come closer and closer and closer, to the point that he was feeding with his trunk, pulling out this vegetation underneath the front of the vehicle. Now, that was quite a special moment. You are committed then. You wouldn't start the vehicle and move. We had to trust him. He got a really, really good sense that we weren't any threat to him. And it was a moment that we had for probably about 10, 15 minutes with him. And he just fed around us and put his trunk right underneath the vehicle. I've just got to turn this game drive channel down. And it was quite an extraordinary experience to have a bull like that. Excuse me, sorry, I'll just turn that down there. We're going to cross back now. I'll be right back with you guys.
We just missed them. We might catch up with them again. We just saw a pair of honey badgers scuttling off through the bush. They might stop and turn around. So you're going to come with us for a little bit. We're going to walk up to that termite mound. And we're going to have to move a little bit quickly than we normally would on the bushwalk. So a pair of honey badgers. think they've scuttled off, but we're definitely going to move in the same direction. That's where we think the leopard might have gone. So hopefully we'll catch up. But they just came bumbling into us, like, and suddenly saw us, and they took off, not too fast, sort of moving at honey badger speed. They are quite mobile creatures. Oh, such a pity. We'll go a little bit more, maybe try get a little bit of elevation, if we can find the tracks where they ran. So quite often when they storm off like that, they run and they stop and turn around. So they came careering through this open area. It's all happening on foot here this morning. Elephants, we're on leopard tracks, honey badgers running past us. It's all happening on foot here this morning. Elephants, we're on leopard tracks, honey badgers running past us. But directly through here, it's going to be difficult to find a track, but we'll... They went this way towards that termite mound. Just going to move to the termite mound. Going to move to the termite mound, sneak up the back, see if we can get a bit of a run. To give you an idea how rare it is for them. And since I've been here, I only know of twice. But we haven't managed to be quick enough to get the camera on yet. Thing to capture. So you'll notice for our regular viewers, it's because I felt James I'm quite tall, so a little stick will suffice. But speaking of James, we're going to carry leopard or the honey badger, but James has got some interesting furry insects to show you.
Now, what an amazing sighting from the kleptoparasite that is Brent Leo Smith. The kleptoparasite, of course, is somebody that steals things. Brent Leo Smith has stolen my stick. He said that he left the big one here for my protection. There is no big stick here at all. Brent Leo Smith is now a thief. I will have words with him when he returns from his sojourn in the bush. It looks like he's having an absolutely amazing time out there. Incredible herd of elephants. Now, quickly, go over to the microscope. Look at this. There's an ant going into this remains of a glorious citrus swallowtail butterfly. It doesn't look so glorious now. There he is. Look at him. He's cleaning his feelers. And he's made a little home. In everything, there's a little ecosystem in everything you look at. Oh, this is just so spectacular. So that'll be a carnivorous ant that will have eaten out the insides of this butterfly just after he died. It definitely wouldn't have killed the butterfly. Just astonishing stuff to be able to see. Now that curly bit that you can see on the right hand side, I'm not going to put a pointer in there because, well, we can try. The curly bit there there. You can see that curly bit there. That's, I think, his folded up mouth parts that have kind of turned in on themselves as he's dried out and desiccated. And that huge bulbous thing to the top side of the screen is, of course, this butterfly's eye. Now, Jeffrey in Texas, yesterday you asked, I don't know if you're still with us this morning, but you asked to see the scales on the top of a butterfly's wing. Now there you can see the scales. That's what he meant by scales. There's also a little mite there, that little white thing moving is a mite. And those are the scales there that you can see on the edge of the butterfly's wing. You can also see the veins, and those veins, of course, remember, a butterfly, completely unlike a bat or a bird, does not have kind of veins, at least bones in the wings to keep them out and stable. So they've got sort of hydraulic pressure. So when you can see those veins, and they pump fluid through those veins, and that keeps the wings up and steady and formed perfectly. Right, so that was a magnificent sighting of those ants living in the citrus swallowtail, so we'll be sure not to throw that away. We'll have to put him gently back where he came from. And just quickly, before we go back to Peter, who's sitting with the producers of what I'm next going to show you, we're going to go down and have a look at some hyena dung. And the hyena dung, of course, is white most of the time. There we go. And we get quite a nice impression of it from here. You can see the whiteness of that calcium carbonate, excuse me, and the hairs that have come out. Now, not even a hyena's digestive system can make short work of the hair that is in the mammals that they eat. So very difficult to make any kind of nutritional use of hair. And you know, a large proportion of hair, of course, is keratin, and of course we know that rhino horn keratin. So if a hyena cannot digest hair, there is no ways that a human being will be able to digest hair and make some kind of medicinal use. Rhino horn perhaps has some medicinal use. It doesn't. It cannot be digested by the human digestive system if it can't be digested by a hyena's. Okay, Peter is still sitting with the hyenas at the den. Let's go back and get an update from him, and I'll try and find something else interesting to show you just now.
Well, sitting here talking with VM, we're really enjoying not only the cool weather, but just the sort of the excitement of summer that's around us, and all the wildlife and all the activity that comes with us. Honey badger, I believe you caught a glimpse there. To see honey badger at any stage is always very cool. It's not an animal that you typically see sort of around every bend. Also not too far in terms of relation. We spoke about a little bit earlier about cats and dogs and hyenas and where they fit in. Mongooses and honey badgers are actually much closer to a hyena than, for instance, lions or leopard or wild dogs. Not too much going on. She's been pretty much doing what we're seeing there. That small one went inside the den, and then the juvenile as well. The older cousin also went inside. So both youngsters in the den, I presume they're sleeping. If you look at her now, she's actually just sort of, how shall I say, sort of rolling into a more comfortable position. But she's pretty much in sort of taking nap mode now as well. Very interesting to see the intricacies of animals. I mean, you can tell a lot from their tracks, but you can and as James was showing you there, the hair don't get digested, so you can, if you really wanted to and you wanted to have a careful look, you could probably figure out what it's eaten just from the hair. Sometimes some of the big bones, but it's incredible, or pretty much all the bone matter that they eat gets digested. Amazing digestive systems. But this place, we are going to spend time at again. It's a beautiful setting. Look at the big termite mound, a couple of nice big trees on it, shade for the day, place to sit up and look. All the bone matter that they eat gets digested. Amazing digestive systems. But this place, we are going to spend time at again. It's a beautiful setting. Look at the big termite mound, a couple of nice big trees on it, shade for the day, place to sit up and as you know, just a little technical thing there. We are busy fine-tuning and tweaking, as we are always doing. A few things still just in preparation for Big Cat Week. So there's these moments or minutes sometimes of us disappearing. Don't worry, we're not going anywhere. We're just making sure that we can stay there better, longer, more consistent as time goes on. We are on the Buffelshoek boundary, as we call it, so the northern boundary in terms of where we can go. terms of animal behavior, obviously they can go anywhere. It's all open. There you can see a nice long road ahead of us. Slowly making our way back towards Boyatela Dam or Gowrie Dam, Juma Dam. We want to go look around a bit for those ellies, the elephants that came past when we were with Rahina. Maybe we can find them. And I think we had a couple more Rahina questions since we're driving and there's not too much going on yet. Let's see what Susan was asking. Hello Susan, nice to have you on safari with us. Observational question, I love those. Susan is just wondering why were those Rahina alone? Because she's always seen them in packs or in clans. Well, Susan, it's just because that female came back specifically to suckle that youngster. That little cub is still very young, 6 weeks, 7 weeks, somewhere like that. He needs food, he needs his milk, and she came back to feed him. The rest of the clan could be in the area looking around for food, still foraging. It's nice and cool, overcast weather, so it's great weather for predators in general. And if other predators are still active, meaning lion or Rahina, wild dogs, Rahinas could also still be active to hunt themselves, but they also know other predators are out and about. So it's opportunity for them to find food. So they probably are doing their thing. There could be 1 or 2 adults down in the den as well. It's not impossible, but I would probably say not this morning, just considering conditions. So she came back to give the youngster some food, and she'll spend some time in the den just bonding as well. It's a very important part of most mammals being raised is the bonding between parents and youngsters. So she'll be doing a bit of that as well, as we could see them playing earlier. Hello Randy, also from New York, the same as Susan. Nice to have you guys. One of my favorite cities, by the way. I love New York. Randy, you're just asking, at what age do the youngsters start eating meat, and at what age do they leave the den? Well, they start chewing on things pretty early. I mean, the adults will bring back bones and food to the den, and they'll start chewing on it. But they suckle from the mother up until 2 years. But as I mentioned, they've got incredibly rich, high nutritional milk. Obviously that's important for the growth of the youngsters. They also get very strong bones, extremely strong teeth, extremely strong jaws. So the milk is very important, but I would say from a few months onwards they're starting to supplement their diet. But it's not that they need it for survival, it's more just that they obviously start getting used to it, start practicing those jaw muscles. They don't get strong by just being there. And then they leave the den. Well, I mean, that youngster was already leaving the den, but staying very, very close. In other words, it's a bit like being at home for your child, and it's playing in the garden, but it's not going outside the garden yet. It's just sort of the periphery of the safe home. So that happens from weeks, 4, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, as we've been seeing. But then that other juvenile, from a year onwards, year and a half onwards, they start moving with the clan as well. They have to start learning the bigger area, the bigger behavior, clan behavior. I saw something there, but I wasn't. Oh, it was something, but it was just a log. As you can still see, very grey, very overcast, heavy cloud. I think there's a bit of this kind of weather predicted for the next few days. We shall see. Another question. Hello Lisa, nice to have you on drive. And as I said, we'll talk a little bit more about Rahinas, and then we'll get closer to the waterhole and see what's going on there. Lisa just asking, are Rahina cubs blind when they're born? Also referred to as artificial when they born like that. You get precocial birth, which would be like impalas, where they precocial, they already developed by birth time. They can run around and so within minutes or seconds even. Rahinas are pretty much like lions and leopards, where the young ones are very, very vulnerable. Just this sort of, I hate the word useless, but colloquially you could use the word useless, I guess. They can't do much, they can't see much, they can't move much. The first couple of weeks they're sort of just flopping around and crawling around, and then they start getting stronger and more confident to move around and so on. So same with Rahina. Gavin, welcome to the drive. Gavin is 8 years old. Gavin, you'd be our first official question from, are we going to go this a bit with Hayden's catchphrase of Operation Wild Child? It's something that he's passionate about and we're going to definitely share in. And basically, Gavin, we want other kids like you to be on drive and to get into nature around us, and also get into nature around your place, whether it's just outside in the garden or when you go walking with your folks in the park. Hey, look at that. Shame, this hippo certainly can find a better waterhole somewhere, but for now this will do, I guess. It is nice and cool, it's not like it's hot and sunny. I'm guessing this is the same hippo that we see in the waterhole all the time. Gavin, so your question, how old was the older one of those two young ones, so the juvenile as we would call it? I don't exactly know. I would be guessing about a little bit over a year old in that region. VM, if you guys sort of got consensus on what you think the age is on that?
Beginning of this year?
Beginning of this year, yeah. So 11 months. Let's call it give or take around a year old. And Gavin, in some ways you could compare it to you maybe. I would say that's probably the equivalent of a human at about, maybe a little bit younger than you would be, but 6-7 years old, something in that region, where it's getting big enough to start exploring its world around it, but he's not going to go far and sort of out hunting yet with a group. Very similar age, Gavin, to Jack. Hayden's boy is 9 years older. Let's see if we can roll a little bit closer. Give you some close-up views. You don't often get to see a hippo like this out of the water. For instance, the nostrils. Look at the nostrils. They're like valves. They can open and close. There they open. There they close. Looks almost like another eye. And that's of course important for when they're in the water. As they go under, the nostrils can actually close up and seal, no water getting in, and then when they go up to breathe, they pop the nose open and they go that typical hippo sound where they go as they leave the water, the nose to blow the water out that might be there. Then they breathe and they can go under again. That's so cool. Just a little mud stop along the way. And hippos, again, typically we see them in the water. Those of you that have been on many drives, you always see the sort of the top 20% of a hippo. I often imagine hippos with like really skinny, scrawny bodies and these thin little legs under the water with a big piece sticking out. But as you can see, the rest of the hippo looks like the top as well. It is quite a big, bulky animal. And yeah, great to see them like that. And then we move into the bush. Hippos can be a little bit grumpy is the wrong word, but unpredictable when they're on land like this. So we're not going to try and follow it. It's most likely just going to run away. Just look at that. Gone, pretty much. There you can just see the tail end. And my point there is just that if a hippo can disappear like that, imagine how easily a lion or a leopard could disappear. But that's why we look around, that's why we track them, that's why we stay alert to anything that might happen. And that's no better place to experience that than being on foot. And you're going to have a little look at what's going on there. Maybe ask Brent a question. Ask him what he thinks. Who was first, the bird or the egg?
So these leopard tracks are proving a bit perplexing. And I hear you just came across a hippo in a mud wallow with Peter. And Peter's 100% correct, very unpredictable, especially if you find them in those little water holes, not in a big water hole where they feel safe. So they do feel quite unsafe quite often in those situations, and you always have to be alert. At the moment, we've walked through this whole block where that leopard looked like it might be stalking, where the tracks went off, and the tracks are really hard to see. So we're seeing if he did a once-over on us and actually came back down this way. And we've just, at the junction of these roads, is quite an interesting little thing. An animal we've seen a few times, but not as many as we would like on the live drives. It hasn't been freshly used for a while, but what we have here is called a civet tree. If I sit down next to the civet tree, and obviously being a civet tree, it's made by civets, so it's a collection of a civet dung, quite old, all of this, and also been broken up nicely by the rain a bit so we can see what's here. So if we have a look down here, we can see quite a few little beetle carapaces, quite a few different species, definite dung beetles in here, quite a lot of dung beetles actually, and also looks like maybe some longhorns. Difficult to say when you're just looking at pieces. And a civet is a bit of a predator, so that's why I'm using a stick to sift through and see if we can find there's some wing casings. And also, one of the more interesting, this is nice and old, so I know it's quite safe to pick up. Little millipede segments. So civet is one of the only mammals that occurs in southern Africa that is able to eat millipedes. Quite often from eating all the detritus and different plant species that they have, they get a poison called hydrogen cyanide. And civet have a special amylase, which is created by their pancreas, that goes into their stomach and actually breaks down that poison into unharmful things. So one of the few animals that is able to eat millipedes, or mammals, sorry, that is able to eat millipedes. So for one last quick look, mostly beetles and millipedes. There might be, there's a few pieces there, those are the only ones I can see from that, but I'm going to let you guys try to figure out what this is from. See, there we go. See if you guys can figure out what animal this is from, and remember, send your questions through to questions@wildearth.tv or use the hashtag #SafariLive on Twitter. So, while we're finished with that civetry, we're going to head down the road a little bit and try to see if that leopard hasn't bamboozled us and actually not gone to the north, whoopsie, as we originally expected, but headed further to the south. So normally, we've got two very different types of bushwalks that we do. One is a sort of a bumble, where we'll go through the bush looking at all sorts of things like the civetry. But today, our main focus is tracking big cats. So unfortunately, when that happens, one of the places big cats like to walk is on the roads. It's like a really big game path for them. And especially after a lot of rain, they are not so keen on getting wet grass in their faces and lots of dew. So they quite often like to utilize the roads. There's a nice little bit of soft sand coming up, and I'm hoping we're going to find that perfect, beautiful paw print of the male leopard. And at the same time, being on foot, it enables us to listen far more carefully for any alarm calls. And there's a strong possibility that this leopard might have had a successful hunt in that storm last night. But from this, we're going to go to baby making with James under the microscope.
Hearing me now? Are you hearing? Are you hearing me now?
Yeah,
we have sound. Do we have sound? Right. Sorry everybody about that. Right. we had these two millipedes, and they were in fact mating with each other, which was fascinating to watch. They were coiled in a state of abject passion. They now, of course, are a bit shy because they've just been caught under the light of this microscope. But look at the way the millipede moves. Same thing, well, you saw the shell of the one that Brent was looking at, and this is something called a worm-like millipede. They eat a lot of dead and dying plant material, and that's about all, really. They don't seem to have much of another kind of function, and unfortunately they have completed their mating. And what happens is that they coil around each other. They coil around each other. Here, we'll just put them on the table for you here. You can have a look at them there. They coil around each other, and they exchange a spermatophore. That's what they call the sperm of the males, and the female will then carry them, and eventually, will eventually lay a whole lot of eggs underneath the dry leaf litter, and they'll hatch into baby millipedes. Now, unlike the insects, they don't seem to go through anything like a larval phase or an interstar phase, where or metamorphic phase, where the adults don't resemble the youngsters. In these, they're born as little millipedes, and I think they add segments as they get older. But it's just astonishing that the number of different species living here, we hardly know anything about them. We know that they eat a lot of plant material. We know that that's basically all we know. And they've got cyanide in them, and things like civets, which Brent was showing you there, can eat them. But other than that, we know very little about them. Fascinating things. Right, the other thing we've got here for you is a snail. Now, we're hoping desperately that this fellow is going to come out of his shell. But let's have a look there, and you can see close up what the giant land snail looks like. And we've been doing a bit of reading on giant land snails, and we know that they live for 10 to 15 years, and they eat also normally plant material only. And we're just going to leave him on the desk here for the next little while and hope that he pops out, because if we can get a close-up for you of his unbelievable tentacles, 2 of them with eyes on them and 2 of them he seems to use to sense things to eat, they will be great to show you. So we're going to keep him on the desk here and hope that he sticks his little tentacles out just now. Alright, let's go back to Hayden. He's got a couple of these things. They don't look quite like that. They look much more alive than that particular one, so we'll see you just now.
Came round this corner here, folks, and beautiful herd of bachelor herd of buffalo. Could be the same ones that we started off with this morning, and they've just crossed over the road. I'm just going to reposition the vehicle so we're sort of in amongst them. They're very relaxed with us, but there's some absolutely magnificent specimens here. Just big boys with incredible horns, and that big bulbous helmet like that. Look at this boy up here. How beautiful is he? That's a prime buffalo bull there. I'll just move up a little bit closer. They're grazing through here nice and gently. We've got some red-billed oxpeckers just hanging off the side. I'll just position up here so you can have a good look. Get right into a nice spot here. So relaxed. Hey guys.
Die lig moet hy buite wees.
Live.
Am I live? Oh, sorry. Hello everyone. Welcome back. Sorry, I wasn't plugged in for sound there for a second. So let me just find myself. There we go, we're missing that. But we are also busy testing our rain cover, so that's actually what we're busy with. We had a few drops. In fact, I can see 1 or 2 drops on the lens, I think. But let me have a look there for you. Don't worry, you'll see against. There we go. Awesome. We are testing our rain cover. That's why you see the dashboard here. I can't see my monitor. There we go. This is covering all the gear in the front. We've got radios here. That's the monitor so that I can see where we are. We've got, cameras and first aid kits and all kinds of stuff in the front. But this is all obviously running with some kind of power, some kind of electricity. So that covers it for the rain. We've got a cover around here, which I must still figure out how I'm going to fit into this, but basically we're covering all the gear in the back, which is sort of spaced out in different areas, the battery banks, because without this you can't get on the safari with us, and without you on safari we can't do this, and we all like doing this, so we're going to keep doing it, and therefore we need a rain cover. So we are playing with it a bit, seeing how it works, and apologies for not knowing you were joining us again. I plugged myself out. Sorry. So let's see how this is going to work. The important thing is, I'm pretty sure it's going to work, because it rains. It's still beautiful to be out in the bush, and let's see if we can make a little. Here we go. And the good thing about us as humans is, like other animals as well, we're designed to be waterproof. Our skin is waterproof, so if it starts raining, we won't start swelling up, look like a hippo after 2 hours driving around. We are fine, but a lot of people don't enjoy being on safari in the rain because they get a bit cold, they get a bit uncomfortable. Some people don't mind and they still have a great time. I've done a lot of game drives in the rain over the years. Obviously, if it starts raining heavily, I'll put a little raincoat on as well. So we're just planning and hoping, and I'm pretty sure it's going to work, to have ourselves out in the rain. Hello Ronald, welcome on safari with us here with WildEarth in South Africa. Sabi Sands Game Reserve, Djuma Game Reserve, Arathusa is the other reserve we're in. Sabi Sands is sort of collective reserve. If you want, compare it to like New York. And Djuma and Arathusa would be different suburbs of that, so areas that you can sort of move around in where we are. And Ronald, you're new on Drive with us, so first of all, a big welcome. You're going to meet lots of great people on the vehicle with you. And Ronald's just asking if we get giraffe here. Yes, we do. We can find giraffe. We will find giraffe. Maybe not right now, maybe not this morning. But as the drives go along, Ronald, I'm hoping and I'm sure you'll be back for more. That's the great thing about safari, because you never know what's going to happen next. We could find anything, we could turn that bend and there could be a leopard walking down the road. But also giraffe, zebra, buffalo, wildebeest, impala, those are all things we've seen this morning other than giraffe. Hyena, we've seen great leopard over the last few weeks. Wild dogs have been active, lion, elephant, all the big animals that you can hope to see in Africa, that you can dream to experience. They're all here. We're in a truly wild place, a truly wilderness area. The Greater Kruger National Park, of which we are part of, is twice the size of Yellowstone National Park, just to give you a comparison. In terms of other game reserves, other wild areas, an amazing habitat, amazing ecosystem, and for us to have a little window into a part of that is a rare privilege. So yeah, thank you for joining us. Question out of Dallas. Hello, Miss Jen. Asking, why do I think, or why are leopards drawn to Sabi Sand? It's not so much that they're drawn, but why are there so many leopard in the Sabi Sand? Various reasons, and keep in mind this can also fluctuate and change over, not daily, but over time frames. So over a 20-year period, you will find sections. We were talking the other night to Stefan. There'll be time periods where there's higher leopard density, and then you might have a few changes in habitat and raining conditions, drought conditions. And that might change a few things, and that could change the prey species dynamic, and that could change the predator species dynamic. So there's been stages where the lion density is up again, and that would influence the leopard density. So lots of things influencing it, but Ms. Jen, in short, this type of habitat where we're driving through now, especially this area of Djuma, you go further south in Sabi Sands, down towards places like Mala Mala, Singita, Landalozi, they're down towards the river itself, high leopard density around the riverbeds as well, or the bigger rivers, the Sand River in this case. But it's to do with the habitat. We've got a lot of this sort of, I mean, just looking around as we're driving, it's thick, it's lush, you've got lots of trees, lots of bush, and that's great habitat for leopard. For them, it's a good place to hunt. They can hunt impala, warthog, all your sort of medium-sized prey species. That's brilliant for them. It's also very good for raising their young. Very important. Lots of hiding places in the riverbeds and so forth. So, good place to find food, good place to raise your young, and that means good leopard density. And very important third aspect to that is the fact that Sabi Sands is a private game reserve, Djuma, Arethusa. That's why we can go off-road, we can follow animals. There's never high vehicle pressure. We normally try and keep it, well, if we can, just one vehicle, but often 2 vehicles, 3 vehicles at the most. So never will there be more than 3 vehicles at a sighting, except if it's something exceptional. We'll sometimes say, listen guys, this is, you're watching something amazing here, like we had with those wild dogs last year around this time during the hunt. Then we'll get other guys in because it's just this occurrence that's so brilliant. But typically 1 to 3 vehicles maximum on sighting, so that's good in terms of the sort of the intimacy of the experience. But the fact that we behave, everyone that drives around here are either guides by profession or people that have private lodges here and they've done this for a long time. So the behavior that we display towards the animals means that they know we're not a threat. We don't bother them at all. Many animals, in fact, like that young hyena cub we saw back there, he's going to grow up seeing Land Rovers and 4x4s and safari vehicles. So for him, it's just part of his environment. And therefore, you see them a lot as well. So to come back to high density of leopard, but you get high density of leopard in some other parts and you don't see those leopards because they're shy or elusive. Over here, the leopards behave normal. If there was a leopard walking down the road now because the grass is wet from the rain, it wouldn't run away when we approach. It would just keep doing what it's doing and we would be seeing it. So the fact that we can see them plays a big role as well. It is an amazing place, guys. I mean, there's various game reserves in Africa, but Sabi Sands is at the top end of good experiences. Genevieve, beautiful name. Also from one of my favorite cities. We were speaking about it earlier. We've got lots of people from New York on safari this morning. Guys, very big welcome from the Big Apple, or to the Big Apple. Another thing we talked about just last night, we were chatting about, and I was talking with Molly as well, it wasn't last night, yesterday on the way to the airport, saying how great would it be to go do a game drive in New York. We take the Jigger, that's the nickname we have for this vehicle. It means the vehicle that can twist and turn and sort of zigzag through the bush. Take this Land Rover, take it to New York, and we go drive around there, and that would illustrate your question, Genevieve. You asking, and all the time and years I've spent sort of looking at and trying to understand animal behavior, has that given me some interesting insights into human behavior, and most certainly, in fact, the reason I love wildlife, one of my sort of niches, if you want, one of my things I've always found interesting is behavior. I'm really into behavioral aspects, to see what's going on, interpret it, get knowledge about it, but also just learn to understand it. And certainly, if you can do that with animals, you can do that even more so with humans, because Genevieve, as you know, we are humans. We can talk to each other in various languages, English being a choice for the safari for us, and that's something that I've always found interesting. And also the live safari, what we're doing right now, the kind of communication we're experiencing, is something I'm very passionate and very excited about as well. This is an amazing way for us to communicate like this. So Genevieve, I'd almost like to ask you, if you're on safari with us during Big Cat Week, any of those drives, the prime time drives can be quite intense because it's only an hour, lots of things happening, but we're also going to do 7 2-hour drives, which will be in your morning time New York, or afternoon time. I would love you to ask that question again, because I love that answer, because it illustrates so many of the points that we do out here. So love that question. Speaking of asking questions and looking for things and all that, I'm not going to say too much more, I'm waffling now. Enjoy the walk. There's something that might excite and maybe even frighten a few of you. We'll see you back in a bit.
So in our endeavors to find this leopard, we have come across something we don't see too often. It is a shell, but it is really, really, leathery. It's almost like a cross between cardboard and leather, and you can see whatever was in it has escaped and is now being born. I'm probably going to guess that this is a snake shell, a snake egg shell. It is definitely a reptile. Reptiles have this very distinct sort of leathery shell casing, and if it had been a tortoise, they have probably a bit bigger and round, a very almost perfectly round shell, where snakes tend to be a little bit more oblong. But very, very interesting little piece. And I'm really excited to get this back to the tent, because James will probably be able to have a great look at it on the microscope. And while we've been out on walk, we've collected a few things that we're going to try and get to James before the end of the safari. We've been tracking right on our eastern boundary, so we might get there a little bit later. We still have to walk back to our tracking vehicle and then from there head back towards the tent on quarantine clearings. But before you leave, we've got some other stuff around us here, and I noticed that as I picked up the shell, and we've got a beautiful, beautiful little flower, and this is a different one. So we see two different Commelina flowers here, and the blue Commelina is the far more common of the two, and this is a Bengal Commelina. You can see it's slightly more delicately shaped, and I always think they almost sometimes look like little elephants with the ears and the tusks and the trunk. Not always, sometimes there's a few too many moving parts, but these bottom ones to me look like nice big tusks, and obviously the big ears. A beautiful little one, and again something I think James would have quite a good time at looking at. Imagine that. James has this under a microscope already. So let's go have a look at the minute detail of a Commelina.
One Commelina bengalensis to another Commelina bengalensis. Here we go. We have a picture here of exactly what Brent was looking at. The Wandering Jew is its common name. Why it should be called that is anyone's guess. It doesn't seem to wander a great deal, nor does it appear to have any religious persuasion whatsoever. Right, let's have a look at it. That is the Wandering Jew under the microscope there, and beautiful. You can see the pollen, glorious yellow color of the pollen anthers carrying the male spermatophore. So, just to keep you in the loop, if you've forgotten your biology from school, that yellow spermatophore, the pollen, is the male part of what travels in the wind or on an insect vector, probably on an insect vector in this particular case, to another flower where it will be landed on the stigma, which is the female part of the flower, and that will then disappear down, and a new flower will be, or the fruit will be formed, and then a seed, and then of course a new plant in the new season. So that is the Wandering Jew. If we come back to my little desk here, which is a source of great fascination, because there is an enormous amount being collected by a huge team of collectors, professional collectors, in the way of, I'm just looking at them now, they're all grinning at me like Cheshire cats. They've been wandering around quarantine clearings finding bits and pieces. They include the inimitable Stefan Winterboer, Louise Povard, and of course Eugene, who, while he wasn't fixing the satellites, has been finding things here. His contribution's not been a strong one this morning. He managed to find a fork stolen by a hyena. That's all he's managed to find so far. So, have a look now. That, everybody, is the sting of a shiny, burrowing scorpion. And you can just imagine getting pucked, as they say in Afrikaans, by one of those things. Apparently not very venomous, but these are the guys. I think Brent was looking at the shells of a scorpion, and the shells of that, not a scorpion, the shells of a millipede. The shells of that millipede could well have been deposited, I'm not sure exactly, I think they were a civet in Brent's case, but the shells of a millipede are often found outside the burrows of this particular scorpion. But what is so interesting is the hairs, and also the size of the sting, and the fact that the sting is so sharp. How on earth the scorpion maintains a sharpness there? I mean, this is a very sharp thorn that I've just stuck into your picture there. That would go into your hand with a great ease. So the sharpness of the scorpion sting is infinitely more than even this great acacia thorn. And this particular piece here, that there, is the venom sac. That's where the venom is. It's not a very venomous scorpion. It's got pretty large pincers, but that will still give you a nasty little nip. And look at the hair on it. I mean, that hair is just astonishing. What it's there for, I can't imagine, but look at the hair. Right, so that is the scorpion. And we also had a moth or butterfly somewhere around here, but I'm just going to retrieve it. Here we go. carry on. Now, a very good question from Country Gal Ash here. While I try and get a picture on this Burnett moth here, Country Girl Ash, you want to know why we can't touch hyena dung. We can. We shouldn't, though, because it's full of muck. So, because in the digestive system of a carnivore, Burnett is not very happy. We're not going to, I don't think we're going to look at him with a microscope. He's very unhappy. He's coming to the end of his life cycle. Anyway, Country Girl Ash, the digestive system of a carnivore is such that it's extremely toxic. We've got the toxins in a carnivore's dung are far more than they would be in a herbivore's dung, and that's because the amount of nutrition or nutrients when you eat meat are that much more, and there are a lot more toxins in it, and therefore the dung is a lot more toxic. It's actually okay to touch it if you don't, but you then got to be very careful about washing your hands. So that's very important. Now, right. So we're just going to have a quick, this is what I was looking at here. You can see the Burnett moth. I think you're going to probably get a better look at them on the bushwalk with Brent eventually, but we're going to release him. You can see the scales of his wings are coming to the end there, and yeah, he's going to probably pass on. They're very short-lived. Right, we've got a skull, just like this one, that we're going to go across to Peter and have a look at. And Debbie, you want to look at a piece of the skull under the microscope. I'll try and set that up while you're with Peter, and then we'll come back and have a look what it looks like under the microscope. See you just now.
Well, we happened to find a buffalo skull here driving along the Mulwati riverbed. Exactly what James has just been telling you about. It's fascinating to see things on a smaller level as well, from the big things to the small things. This is a old buffalo skull, old buffalo female, in fact. Just looking at the bosses, those sort of shields on the front of the head, and you can see a lot of the keratin layers, that sort of fingernail-like covering of the horns, has been broken down now by these larvae. There you can see those little, looks like little dreadlocks almost on the horns. It's exactly what James was talking about. There's a little bit left of the horn sheath, and then just the hard bone. As I said, we're in the riverbed. So I'm just listening to the game drive there. Some lions up in the north. Those lions are too far north for us, but it's just good to know where they are. Hello, Millie, from Utah. You know, there's a little village out here. It's the second village from the boundary of the reserve. Not far, 10 kilometers, 5-6 miles. A village called Utah. Second village after the first village, that's called Dixie. Got a few American names for some of the villages in this area. Millie, you're just asking what have I been doing? Sorry, I'm not looking at you, but I'm just looking around. This is Twin Dams area, Great Leopard area. We heard some squirrels alarm calling just now, so I'm going to make sure we don't miss something. Millie just asking what have I been doing since I was in the Sabi Sands last. This is about a month ago, just over a month ago. Been back home. This is busy season as well in Namibia. That's where I'm from, the next country on the west coast of Africa after South Africa, so southwestern Africa. It used to be called Southwest Africa, before called Namibia since 1990. We've been very busy. In fact, my wife Alicia has been very busy. We had a very, very busy yesterday, busy day today as well, with the boat safaris, Mola safaris, what we do there, and I've been doing some dune tours as well, 4x4 tours in the dunes, which I obviously enjoy a lot with the Land Rover, so that's also good fun. And yeah, just been living and working and enjoying life. We've got 2 kids. My son started walking just before I came out here right now. And yeah, just doing those things, the things we do in life, the things that make life a beautiful experience. Family, friends, work, sleep, food, all the things that you guys enjoy as well. raining, even though we did get our rain cover out, it's partly just a test, but why I'm thinking of that is I just felt the drop or two again. So there's a little bit of sort of random drops falling down. I think we will get some rain again today. In fact, through until about the middle of the week, Wednesday, maybe even as late as Thursday, we should have a bit of rain. I'm sure we're going to have 1 or 2 big storms as well. And if it goes the way it's looking now, we will have lots of rain in the next few days, but then we'll have dry weather for Big Cat Week. It should be brilliant. Also means we're going to have beautiful nature around us. Obviously cats are what we're going to be looking for, but when it rains a lot, you've got water everywhere, and with that all the insects and the bird life and the young animals that are being born, just lots of excitement. So a beautiful time to be in the bush, summertime in Africa. Speaking of being around and looking around in the bush, Hayden's doing the same as what we are at the moment, sort of looking for something. So enjoy the ride with him. Please say hello to him from me as well. And we'll see you back here in a bit. We've got a little bit of, about 40 minutes left, so anything can still happen.
Well, it's been a little rainy in spots. We just put a couple of covers on. We lost signal a little bit before, so I missed out on sharing that little bit of buffalo action with you, but I'm coming back around now to see if we can see them. But Sherry from Ohio, how are you, Sherry? Great to have you on board this morning. And Sherry's question is about leopards and sort of turf wars and territories and densities. The turf wars don't seem to be as heavy duty as what lions are, predominantly because leopards are solitary. So you might get 2 males coming over and crossing over into their home ranges and having an altercation, and can happen with females as well. But it's not as intense as like those lion wars that you see. Leopard density is also dependent on food availability and space. There's some densities that are quite incredible, animals living very, very close to each other, and then animals that have home ranges of 40-50 square kilometres. So it really does tend to be about food availability and historical things, and then there's also those factors or external contributing factors like human encroachment onto habitat and what pressure the animals have to live on top of each other sometimes. But remembering leopard are the most adaptive cat in the world, feeding on anything from small crickets and lizards and small mammals up to big ungulates, big hoofed animals. So they're an incredibly adaptive cat. Wonderful how they can fit into so many different ecosystems and habitats. But definitely haven't seen anything this morning. Even I think Peter was talking about some tracks that he picked up on or heard from. But it is a bit quiet this morning, but the great thing is, we've got all these different things happening, the walk and the tent, and the small things really matter as well. And I hear that there's been some really amazing, wonderful action going on in the tent this morning, which is great to hear. And I'm just going to pop my head around here. These buffalo were just walking along this little drainage line here, and if we can catch up with them again, they were feeding. And when you do see them grazing, it's a great. This herd is so relaxed. I just thought we might try and give them another go, but we lost your signal. Well, you lost my signal, sadly, before. They're just down in here. We might not be able to get that close now. But there were some striking-looking bulls in there. Wow. I think I should stop. Operation Wild Child reporting for duty. Elizabeth in California. Fantastic to have you on board, Elizabeth. 5 years old, and what a great question. Are African buffalo related to American buffalo or bison? Well, you know what? They are. Down the track, I think, millions of years ago when the earth was all changing and all the different parts of the world were moving apart, different fragments or different sections of that family that the buffalo are in. It's a really interesting word. You might use this down the track, but it's a big word. It's called bovine family, B-O-V-I-N-E, and that's the family of cattle, wild cattle, including our domestic cattle, the ones that we see in a paddock creek near your home, or when you're driving through the countryside, all related in the same sort of family. So it's a great question, Elizabeth. And there's buffalo also that occur in Asia, very different looking ones as well. But yes, they are related distantly, but they're definitely related, Elizabeth. And fantastic to have you on board, our first soldier in Operation Wild Child. Fantastic to have you, buddy. Santa Barbara. That's a fantastic thing. You've got an initiative that's happening in North America as well, No Child Inside, and I think that's beautiful. It's a beautiful sort of thing to have, and these sort of things are happening all over the world. We've got these buffs here again, so I'm just going to gently come up to them. But a great initiative to have these operations, or these things that we can get kids outside. It is scientifically, I'm just going to pull up. There's a nice one just here, Bri, as well. But I was looking for one particular bull. There's a couple. We'll just park ourselves down a little bit further. It's all right, my friend. It's okay, buddy. Just trying to get Brian a nice shot. Oh, here we go. Here's right. Maybe if we... no, you're going to walk on a little bit. They're going down into this drainage line, which is a bit tricky for us. I'm going to back up a little bit, but just back to that those initiatives that getting kids outside. It's if we can stimulate you guys to get outside and explore your world a little bit as well, after you've watched Safari Live, of course. Oh, they're just being a little bit elusive at the moment. There's a couple over here, bro, that are going to probably walk towards us. So I'll just park off here. There's one boy just through there. They're a little ways off. They were really close to us before, but they might walk onto us a little bit as they're grazing. And they're just grazing through on this beautiful, fresh flush of grass that's come through after this dump of rain that we've had. And the rains still sort of haven't settled in as much as we would have hoped. A lot of the dams, as we were talking about before, are still quite empty, but it's imminent. It's imminent. There's no doubt about it. You can feel it. We got a few spots of rain before. We had to stop and put the rain covers on. But that individual there, just sort of standing between that vegetation with a lovely set of horns as well. In this particular herd, there were some cracking bulls with big sets of horns. And they've got those fantastic grinding molars, the massive cheek teeth that these animals have. And as they've got a really broad row of incisors as well. There's a couple more up to the left there, Bri, that are grazing towards us at the moment. They've got a prehensile tongue as well, which is allows us to really get amongst that grass. So as they get closer, we'll have a little talk about it as you can see it happening. And what it is that those fantastic cheek teeth and that broad row of incisors gives them ability to feed in all different grass lengths, and they can use that prehensile tongue to rip off big bunches of long grass. They're very efficient feeders. And I was just sitting there before, just as I lost you, and they started to browse on some vegetation as well. So really good adaptability buffalo, but predominantly grazers. And the foliage will be, lots of different herbs, and including the grass. It's a bit like a smorgasbord or a buffet where they walk through. Not quite as extensive as elephant, but they're great efficient feeders, these guys. Enjoying that grass. So Janine, great to have you on board with us this morning, and a lovely question from you to know whether my son is out here with me. Well, he's not at the moment, Janine, but in just after Big Cat Week, my wife and my son and some of my friends from around the globe are joining me down here, and we'll be spending some time on Djuma and staying for an extra 5 days. So I'm very excited. He's never been here before, and I'm really, really excited for my boy to be down here and being able to experience this beautiful place. So thank you, Janine. You never know, if the guys are driving around on drive, they might bump into us in the vehicle, and we'll say hi, I promise. Very excited. This bull, so thank you for your question, Janine. Great to have you with us. This bull here has had a bit of a knock, and then you see this quite often, where they lose a horn, break a horn off in a fight, or a bit of a scrap. You can imagine you've got some really great behaviour that you see when two bulls are coming into contact with each other, and that they sort of stand head to tail and do this wonderful, wonderful walk around each other. And it's a lot of posturing and carry on before they actually do engage. But when they do engage, you certainly know about it. It's a broadside sort of approach that they have with each other, and when they connect, you really hear it. It sounds incredible. But at the moment, these boys are very relaxed and just feeding and doing a little bit of browsing through here. As they get closer, you'll just start to see those lovely, lovely... That tongue sticks out a little bit. You can see it wraps around. Might see if he does it a bit closer to us. Hello, my boy. He's just going to walk straight across in front of us here. He's definitely been in the wars, that boy. Beautiful. Coming quite close to us. He's about probably 15 feet away from us just here. Just walking past. Giving the obligatory sort of look at us here and there. But you know what I'm going to do now, because that's a great little place to change over and link to the guys in the tent. And I think James has got actually something carrying on from Buffalo for you. We'll see you just now.
Hello everybody. Deb, we have decided to show you the buffalo skull as we promised, but while we were doing that, the most amazing thing occurred. Now I'm going to head across straight to the microscope, and you will see living in this buffalo skull is, oh dear, I had the focus so beautifully, there he is, an unbelievable sighting of a spider. I don't know what kind of spider. It's got some beautiful blue eggs. Those eggs are tinged just like gin, I suppose. So we'll call this the gin spider. I mean, have you ever seen a more subtle and gentle colour than that in the bush? It is just absolutely spectacular. Look at the colours on the spider, and the eggs in that sack are just unbelievable. It's living in the eye socket of this buffalo. So let's come back to the buffalo skull now, and you can see exactly where it's living. There is the eye socket of this long dead beefalo, and the spider is just inside there. I'll shine a bit of light in there. There you can see him. Isn't that amazing? Discovered it completely by chance. Unbelievable. Now, I actually think, Tebs, I think that camera did a better job of looking at the top of this than the microscope did. But we'll have a quick look with the microscope. I'll try and focus. There we go. All right. Yeah, that's quite a nice shot there. Okay, so there's the microscope, Deb, picture of the top of the buffalo skull, and you can see the splinters and fragments of bone that have come together, and well, they did come together, and now they're starting to split apart, of course, because slowly this skull will rot away into the dirt. Now, I used to think, of course, that fossils were a kind of bone, but they aren't. It's a kind of, well, I'll explain it actually when you get back. It's a bit of a longer experience, and rather than waste your time with that right now, we've got Brent sitting with a lovely herd of zebras. This will be great. See you now.
So we moved from where we were on the eastern boundary tracking leopard, and we parked our tracking vehicle down near the Moati drainage, and we decided to walk up towards quarantine. There's always a good chance You can see there's some impala and some zebra. And the zebra were lying down till the impala came dashing out. The impala go check. But we can see there's two zebras lying down in this cold, windy weather. But we've collected the whole at the tent. So we're going to move on a little bit. I'm just going to wait for a few seconds. So while we move, we're going to send you across to Pieter, and hopefully we'll find something more before we get to the tent.
Welcome back. We've walk on the sort of edge of signal there, so breaking up a bit, but nonetheless fantastic to see zebra, or zebra I guess, depending where you're from. So we learned with the alphabet here in South Africa, which is more sort of a British English if you want. You learn the alphabet and it's X, Y, Z. And now you guys learn it X, Y, Z. So zebra, zebra, potato, potato. You all know what we're talking about. Let's look at this bird quickly. Just nice and close. It's not great light for it. This is a starling. You get the glossy starling and you get the Birchall starling. Both of them can fly, and both of them normally fly away when you try and show it. Just sort of just sitting there singing. I'll probably be able to listen to him. We are just really enjoying it. I mean, I was just in that very happy space that one goes into on safari, on game drive specifically, where you don't actually worry anymore what you see or what you find next, because it's all beautiful. Just driving around, hearing the Franklin call, it's nice cool air this morning, seeing how wet the soil is, knowing how grateful this environment is for rain and how beautiful it's going to be over the next week or two. But just watch that Franklin. They don't fly away as easily as the starlings. I did notice a little bit of sort of mating behavior. The male, for a few seconds there, his feathers all puffed out and his wings came out. But it seems they're back to normal again. These are Natal Franklin. Let me just make sure about that. Actually, yeah, Natal Franklin. One of my favorite birds in the bush. Alarm calls in the mornings, sunset chorus in the afternoons. Often alarm calls also for predators. You can sometimes find leopard by the assistance from those guys. Yeah, all in all, just beautiful to be out there. And I was just thinking how fortunate I am and we are to be able to do this. Thank you. I will say this many times over the next few weeks. Coming up to Buffelshoek Dam. Now, even though it's wet now, you might wonder why we're checking waterholes if there's water everywhere. But keep in mind, the animals are still creatures of habit. They will still go past familiar places, waterholes. And on that note, we're going to go back to the walk. I think you'll be able to hear them better. We'll see it probably just before the end of drive.
So those zebras moved off. We're on the edge of quarantine, but I think they've gone just behind this nice big termite mound. And there's HT. He's also around here, so we can say hello to HT. And Brian, I think, under all that cover. It's very difficult to tell the cameraman when it's cold and wet. But we're going to try see if we can sneak up to the zebra quickly. We're just going to pop up. There's a nice big termite mound ahead of us. And then, oh, there they are. So they're directly behind the termite mound. I don't know if, Jandre, you want to show quickly. You can just see a head popping out over the termite mound. And now we're going to try. There we go. Oh, we've been spotted. The game is up. And the impala running around in the background. Looks like they're just playing. Because if we don't show any predatory behavior, so if we don't skulk around, there is a possibility we're going to be able to walk closer to these zebra. The most important thing is not to walk straight at them. We're going to walk an oblique angle from them, so to show them we're not trying to hunt them. And they might not run, so they might stand there and watch us. So we're going to make our way to the marula tree, and probably about 40 meters between us and the zebras. And I think they're more interested in what the impala were running from. There we go, as you can see, while his back's turned. Let's see if we can get a little bit closer. Got caught. You hear that little snort? And you can see they're quite relaxed. We're not displaying that predatory behavior, just a little at us before walking off. And there we go. We're going to let them move into the bush. We're going to start slowly making our way towards the tent. And James, the tent is probably 200, 300 meters from us. We can have a look. You can just make it through the trees over there. And let's go see what James is up to. But while we're walking across there, we've got a question from Tutu in Las Vegas. And quite an apt question since we're on such an open grass area here. Tutu is wondering, what is the difference between a grazer and a browser? So if I was a grazer, Tutu, well, let's get a little bit closer to this bush before we do that. As a grazer, I would only eat grass, or almost exclusively grass. So some nice, fresh, new shoots like this would be ideal. And quite often we just dust the sand off. These new fresh shoots, obviously the roots of the plant are trying to put as much nutrients in it to get it to grow as fast as possible. There's quite a lot of sugar in it, so quite a lot of starch. And that's what the grazers are after. And that's why often they're dung, and of course there's not dung around us now, but it's very dark. It's from the starches that make it very, very black. And you can actually taste the sugars. It's quite sweet, these fresh grasses. Certain grasses taste better than others, and the animals know that as well. And even when a lot of us are out in the bush, we'll actually pick a stalk of grass and chew on it, and you get a wonderful sweet flavor. And those are the grasses that a lot of the grazers prefer. However, if I was a browser, I'd come here. This is not a great browsing tree. So even then, as a browser, I wouldn't go for these big mature leaves. I'd probably go for these smaller, fresher leaves. This, Jean-Andre is getting very close to me because he knows I'm going to chew this leaf, but I'm probably not going to enjoy it nearly as much as the grass. And especially this one is really not a really good, the tannin is almost bitter, and you get this very sort of, your tongue sort of sticks to your palate. So even if I was a browser, this is possibly only a species I would eat if I was under a lot of pressure. So in the dry season, we did see elephants and giraffe feeding off. This is a large fruited bush willow, not a great eating tree. If you have a choice, you go for things like buffalo thorns and acacias, much, much sweeter, much nicer. So while we continue to meander towards the tent, let's go see what Mr. Pretorius is up to.
Hi guys, welcome back. I just want to have a quick look at... Oh no, just look way down the road. There's two people walking. I thought perhaps it's the guys from the walk. And I knew they were not on the road, obviously, because they were looking at zebra and chatting with you. There's a guy from the anti-poaching, I presume, just checking for tracks. Very experienced, very good at it. Able to look after the area. So being on Game Drive is great, isn't it? You can learn new things all the time. I mean, I always thought the browser was something like Firefox or Internet Explorer, but obviously there's other context to that as well. We'll have to find some kind of a grazing tool. Right? What do you think about that? So like internet grazer. Good idea. It's great to be on foot, and it's so lovely to be on foot because you can look at not only small things. I mean, we often talk about obviously small things, birds and insects and eggs and so on, but just the way you sort of are tuned into your environment, your sensitivity to nature around you is a beautiful experience on foot. The biggest change at the moment for us by far is all the different water aspects to things. The fact that we've had rain recently means there's now lots of fresh puddles everywhere. And Cheryl, that adds into your question as well. Cheryl's from Colorado, which is a state I believe is absolutely beautiful with lots of water. But there was a question earlier, and Cheryl, your question now about the riverbed we just crossed through. How often does water flow down that? So how often does it get water in it? In these big storms, if you get big rain, the water that floods away or flows away would be going down those riverbeds, which is why we call them drainage lines. They help to drain the area of flash water or flood water. As well as Buffalo Dam, there was a question earlier about the quality of water. The dams that sort of held the last of the water before the rains now, that water becomes quite foul, but you know, dirty water is still better than no water, and obviously animals have adapted to be able to drink water like that. And keep in mind, I always, when I take the kids to the dunes and they get dirty, I always tell my wife that it's clean dirt, you know, it's clean sand, it's different from dirty dirt. And the same with that, you must realize that even though the water could get a bit dirty, it's still clean water. In other words, it gets dirty from dust and mud and maybe animals messing in it a bit, but it's not contaminated. These kudus here. Hello Jane. That's a good thought. In fact, I think lots of good thoughts are going to pop up with this microscopic view we've got of things. Just to be able to see things on a little bit more of an intricate level is very interesting, because often how things tie in on a small level is interesting, how it fits together on a big level, if you know what I mean. But Jane, you were just wondering if we'd be able to get a sample of that water and have a look at it under a microscope. I think that would be interesting to see what's in it. But yeah, it's very interesting how it all ties together. I'm talking about my family a lot this morning, because having you guys in the vehicle, many of you are friends of mine, many of you I even think of as family to an extent, certainly as the WildEarth family. But I'm missing my family a lot this morning, maybe because it's Sunday. My wife Leisha and my two kids. But why I was thinking of my wife now, one of the reasons, she's a molecular biologist actually, so she understands things on that very, very small level. And it's interesting to talk with her in terms of how she sort of ties the small things and the big things together sometimes. And that's what we're going to do over the next couple of weeks. Great to have that tool available, great to be able to show you that sort of view of the world as well. We might be breaking up a little bit here in the dip, so I think we'll probably cut away shortly. If not, we'll continue on, otherwise I'll see you in a bit. So enjoy the microscope, see you in a bit.
Hello everybody, in this little bucky here, come and have a look here Tibbs, we've got a centipede, and now he's called a large centipede, and it's part of an order. In fact, that's going to be better than the microscope. Let's look there, I'll just shine the light on him there. It's a whole order of them, which means there will be hundreds of different species of what we call large centipedes, and they are voracious predators of frogs apparently sometimes, small birds even, not this one. I mean, the bird would have to be microscopic for this centipede to eat it. And even other kinds of, probably this one's eating invertebrates for the most part. They can give a rather nasty, painful bite, but it's not dangerous to human beings. It's just an irritant more than anything else. Right, so that's a centipede. Now, country girl Ash, you wanted to know how big they get, the centipedes, and then how big they get compared with millipedes. I've seen lots of millipedes around here, roughly that size. So, how many inches is that? That's about 6 inches in length. And then centipedes, I have seen one centipede that big once, but that's very uncommon. I think the biggest millipede I've ever seen is probably about that big, which is almost half a foot long. The largest centipede I've seen is about that big. So in this part of the world, I suspect that the millipedes get slightly larger than the others. Right, let's go quickly across to something very exciting.
So folks, here you can just see running off through the bush there a glimpse of an absolute character, one of the most fantastic birds in Africa. Can you hear that? I'm not sure if you can pick it up, but it's the call, it's the contact calls between the ground hornbills. There's two of them there, a pair, and they're just feeding through. Oh, but I'm just going to be quiet for a second. Listen to that. That's so beautiful. I'm just going to try and back up to get a glimpse of one of them for you. They just... You got one? Oh, there you go. Brian's got one there. Fantastic, mate. Off in the distance, but we can't get any closer than that. And they'll just they'll move into the thicker vegetation. But there's this beautiful oomph, really beautiful call there. And they do have a duet type of in the mornings they'll make that call and they'll really contact with each other. Oh, fantastic. They're a big bird too. They get up to about 6 kilograms, which is about 13 or 14 pounds. I'm just going to try and move back a bit, Brian, see if we can just get one last glimpse of them. It's such a cool bird. They feed on all different types of invertebrates and vertebrates and small mammals if they can get their hands on them, as well, their beaks on them, hands even. Just trying to find them, but what a great little sighting. And these birds, they're one of Brian's favourites. He spotted them. And I heard him get very excited then about ground hornbills. He hasn't seen them for ages, he said. Still vocalising. Just want to try and get one more glimpse. Beautiful, beautiful black bird, standing about, I reckon about 130 centimetres. I think the books say 130, which is about, no, I can't see them, Brian, can you? In inches, that's probably about, goodness, I'm trying to do my conversions now. 30s, 12, probably about 40 inches. No, I can't see them. You can still hear them though. Oh, booming sound. Up there, just trickling through somewhere up there. Anyway, we had a little sighting of them. Beautiful bird, ground hornbill, and that really beautiful, beautiful noise that they make, that vocalization. Let me just give you a quick look, guys, just because this is what the great thing about our apps that we've got are. Just whilst you can hear them in the background still, I'll just get this up. Here we go. Here's a picture, and this little app is a fantastic thing to have when you're out looking for birds, and you do find when you've got these beautiful white primary feathers as you see them when they fly. They don't fly for very long distances, but they use that. They can fly to escape a situation or to move a bit further. Really great male wattle or bright red coloration there. This is a picture of a juvenile just here, and then that's a picture you can see in the fully fledged beautiful coloration on that wattle and around the eye there. Lovely long big bill there for foraging and picking up anything from, as I said, small mammals to invertebrates to all different types of reptiles as well. I used to live in Zimbabwe, and a friend of mine hand-read one of these, and he used to live in the house, and in the mornings we would get up from the night of, come out into the living room in the middle of summer, and when there's a lot more invertebrate activity at that time of the year, and they'd all come inside being attracted to the light, and in the morning a lot of those invertebrates, whether they be moths or beetles or whatever that had gotten into the house through the evening, it would be all up along the windowsill on the floor, and this bird, his name was Quis, and he used to come in the morning and just have this feast along all the windowsills and eat all these dead invertebrates. But he eventually then went off to the wild. Well, that was a nice little thing to finish on, and it wasn't a lot of mammals around this morning, but I think right across the board there's been some really interesting stuff, and I'm looking forward to seeing you guys later on this afternoon. So I'm going to say goodbye for this morning. Great to be back. Lots more to do. Operation Wild Child, we started that, and some lovely birds, and I just look forward to seeing you guys again this afternoon. So thanks very much for having me back, and we'll talk to you later. Bye now.
So we've made our way across quarantine. We're about to join Tebs and James and Eugenius at the tent. We've managed to collect some paraphernalia while out on bushwalk. Look, James is excited. They let him come out of the tent. Normally he's not allowed to go past the little edge of the canvas. And I'll return his stick to him just in case.
Thank you.
Good morning, Jamesy.
Did you find my stick?
I'm in the Mahindra.
Hello.
Hi, nice to see
Thank you. Thank you.
Here we go. But there we go.
Right. Now,
Oh, we've collected some stuff.
yes, fascinating.
So we did a little bit of a scurry around in
Oh,
a
a scurry.
in a cemetery. A fossick, yes. Oh, and then yes, because you had the blue one, I brought
me
you a yellow one.
pressed version of the yellow one.
Yes,
Thank you,
there we go.
Carmelina. The yellow wandering Jew this time round.
Okay.
Come on, man.
Oh,
What are
wrong
you
pocket.
showing
Oh,
me?
there's too many pockets in this thing. And then a reptile egg of some kind.
Okay, shall we have a look at him?
Yeah, that's and very leathery.
Right. What do you think he is?
I don't know. Just judging from the size, I think it might be a snake.
Found on a termite mound.
Very close to one, yes.
Okay.
And
Right.
I think that could be a.
So, Brenty, just put your hat on backwards so that we can see your eyes. You have to do that in here. It's not gangster, it's because the lights are hanging from the top of the roof. There we go. now we're having a look at this under the microscope, and we'll just cross over to the microscope quickly and you can have a quick look at what it looks like under the scope. Well, not substantially different from the buffalo skull from this angle, but it certainly is. It is very different and leathery, as you can see, and definitely nothing like a chicken or bird's egg. What kind of? Maybe a monitor?
I thought a monitor, but I'm just not sure. And we did
Okay.
find another one.
Okay,
which
Brent's
is
got all
also-
sorts of things in his pocket here.
Yeah, which is
Yes.
also. Which
piece.
is also a piece from a different area,
Okay,
but also got that leathery texture. It looks a little bit more fresh. I think the other one's been.
there we go. We've got them under the microscope there. You can see that one too. That's quite an interesting change, interesting difference that they have. I'm afraid my expertise in oothecology
Oh, you're so clever.
doesn't go that far. I don't really know. I would go with something the size of maybe a monitor's a bit bigger than that.
Yeah, I was thinking that's why I thought snake. Whoa, the wind
Yeah.
got that little one.
Okay.
The little one could even be a
Yes.
snake or a lizard, but it's so different. It's extremely interesting
Yeah.
to see, and
The different
it's
ones,
quite possibly the different diets.
Yeah.
It has a lot to
Could
do
well be.
with how the eggshells are
Yeah.
formed.
Oh, I'll tell you what we did have here, and he's
Escaped.
he's escaped at high speed. But we had a giant land snail. I wonder how on earth he disappeared. He'll be around here somewhere. But we put him next to this tortoise shell, and so we're talking about calcium and the need for calcium out here, which of course would make a big difference to eggshells. But he climbed. You can see. I don't know if you can see there.
Glisten.
The slimy residue on this on the tortoise shell, and we put the snail next to him and he climbed up onto this and obviously started to eat it. Now apparently apparently he's been spotted.
Oh, there he is.
There he is.
Wow,
Look at
it's
this.
a
Come over here,
beast.
Tips. This is unbelievable. Here is the giant land snail over here. Now, it's very important that they eat these kind of things here because they need the calcium to maintain their own shells. So we're going to leave them here. They will also eat the lime wash on the top end of on walls. They'll eat lime wash on walls. Okay, we're going to have a quick look at one more thing from Bushwalk. What else have you got to show us?
It's the only living thing I managed to bring
Yes.
back. And I'm quite sure, being on quarantine, you've seen a lot of millipedes. Now we have a pill millipede.
Oh, that is spectacular.
Here we go.
Look
So
at this.
slightly different millipede to the
A
ones we see
pill
normally.
millipede. I was reading about them yesterday and very excited. Okay, so there you go. That is the pill millipede. That's fantastic. And they roll up into that ball, of course, to try and protect themselves from danger and destruction at the various predators that are around here. Okay, so we're going to head across to Pieter now on the hyena den. A big thank you to Brent
My
on his
pleasure.
walk.
I will
Thank
see
you,
you
well
later.
done. Good job, well
Cheers,
done.
cheers.
Thank you,
Bye,
Jean-Dre.
everyone.
Big thanks to Tebs, the ladies in the final control with Alex Voz, the large Russian, and of course to Andrew on the drone, who is standing behind us. He's of course crashed his car yesterday, so he's now just carrying cables. We'll head across to Pieter and we'll see you a little bit later.
Oh, What a way to get to the end of drive, with the beginning of a new life, you could say. This little hyena cub that we saw earlier, maybe you missed it earlier on the safari. We were sitting here and this youngster was having a suckle from its mother, who's lying on in the front here. And we're at a den, so we should be able to see them quite a bit over the next one. And what a perfect stage to be sharing this young life as well. He's big enough now to start exploring outside, and for us to get these beautiful views like that. Look at that. Oh, lovely. But great wildlife this morning. I mean, those ground hornbills that Hayden saw earlier, very special birds to see. And lots of interesting things from the bush tent, from the walk. All in all, another perfect day to be on safari in Africa. Attacking the branch. Oh, that's just... Oh guys, always great to get such good feedback. Sleepy has been new on Game Drive with us and saying that he or she, I'm not sure what the name refers to, never realized how awesome hyenas are, how interesting and sensitive they are. And this has all happened since being on safari with us. Always such a beautiful thing, such a nice thing to hear. People enjoying this experience with us, and that it makes a difference, that it gives them new insight into nature and into some of the beautiful and amazing creatures we get to know in this process. Seems we have lots of people from the East Coast. It's of course a good time of the day for you to join us for safari. Andre from Florida just asking if it's unusual just to have one cub. No, I mean you can have two as well, but very often you do just have one cub with hyena. What's he doing? I thought he might be going back into the den. I keep saying he, it's more a generic he. It's actually more likely to be a female cub. But Andre, and for those of you that missed the earlier part of the drive, or maybe this is your first safari, welcome. But with hyena it's very difficult to tell. Male and female look physically about the same. You have to tell it from behavior really. The females will always be dominant. Even a female cub like this would be dominant over a male adult. But we don't care about dominance right now. For now, we're caring about exploring our world, biting a branch and playing with the grass and just checking out everything that's out there to be checked out for this young animal. Oh wow guys, not in our area, but further to the north the guys just found some cheetah. So nice to hear, not from us but from one of the game drives. Guys, it's been an awesome morning. Sorry, we're going over time a little bit. For myself, Peter, it's been great to have you out here. It's great to have HT out here. It's also fantastic to be with the team, all the guys that are out here on the